And as of now and for the last 3 years, that's what my goal has been. I just want to be one of the best music video directors out there.
That's cool.
More like this? That's cool.
Yeah, that sounds better. Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, it started. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. It's really good to meet you in person.
I know, yeah. We've been talking, just online for a couple years, maybe.
Yeah. Well, there's only like a handful of people doing music videos like within this kind of Tempe area. Like there's us, there's June Hucko, the Overcast guys, Elijah Banks, I believe, and that's about all I know about.
yeah. There's a handful of other people I know, but yeah, it's really cool. I think there's a really cool Arizona scene coming together. Just graduated ASU Film School last semester, and the thing with most people is, should I go to LA or not? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to at first, just because everybody wanted to go to LA, and there's a lot for music videos. There's lots of artists out there. There's lots of production companies, a lot more locations for music videos in LA. But for me, I ultimately came to the decision that like 95% of my process takes place in my room anyways. Like I spend a lot of time coming up with ideas in my room, and then I like making videos that are like heavily edited, so a lot of the work is post. So it's like, if I'm going to spend 95% of my time at home in my room anyway, why would I do that at my room in LA for twice as much?
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm going to stay in Arizona for a while, maybe this whole time, and just make trips to LA, do a couple shoots, come back.
Yeah, no, I that was definitely the philosophy I had when I graduated. I finished ASU Film School in December of 2017, so it's this weird feeling now where I've been graduated for as long as I went to school, and that's there's a little bit.
Yeah.
So you just said you graduated at the end of 2019?
End of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it like just happened.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were going to ASU Film School.
Yeah, it was FMP with emphasis in editing. What were you?
So they only added the emphasis part of their program like right after I left. So there was FMP, which at ASU is Film and Media Production. Mm-hmm. Before, how it worked was everybody had to start as FPR, Film and Media Practices, and then you had to apply into this FMP program, which was like lauded as being the better one or the more hands-on one. But there wasn't any like real specific direction to it. So after I graduated, they created these focus tracks. So it sounds like you got to do editing.
Yeah, it was still the same thing where everybody was FPR, and then after 2 years you applied FMP. Yeah, there's editing, cinematography, directing, producing. So that was pretty cool.
It was after 2 years?
Yeah, it's like a year and a half, 2 years. I forget exactly what it was. We needed certain requirements. And
when I went there, it was just certain classes you had to have taken.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And me and my friends figured out that you could take all of those classes in one semester. So we got
speedrun it.
Yeah, so we got accepted like semester 2 and basically started FMP
That's awesome.
our sophomore year. So I started ASU at the beginning of 2014 and left at the end of 17. So I was only in school for 3.5 years just because we applied as fast as possible. So it sounds like, okay, you did a similar thing.
I actually finished school in 3.5 years, and I was in a different major in my first semester.
Oh, wow.
So I started in computer science, because my whole life I've grown up on computers. I've been on computers since I was like 4. My dad's been a programmer my whole life, and so I always had this idea growing up that I wanted to be on computers, be a programmer. Mm-hmm. Went into computer science, and I just didn't like it. Like I like the idea of programming, and I do like some programming, but when it came down to learning about it, I just didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So your dad was a programmer. You really like editing videos. So when did you start teaching yourself like Adobe software?
Okay, so real quick, when I very first got into editing, was in 4th grade. one of my best friends, Colin Latham, shout out Colin, when we were in 4th grade together, we both played Club Penguin.
Yeah.
That was the shit.
Yeah.
And there are people who make like Club Penguin edits. They're called CPMVs, Club Penguin music videos.
Okay.
So you would literally screen record your Club Penguin character in different locations. Yeah. And back then we would use like Sony Vegas Pro 9. So that was my introduction to editing, was Sony Vegas, and just fucking around in like elementary school, and then in like middle school we'd do like Call of Duty edits and shit like that. And then I left editing basically for all of high school. Like, it was totally something I did just for fun in elementary and middle school, and then, you know, I thought I was going to be a programmer. So I didn't get back into it at all until halfway through freshman year of college, when I changed majors.
Okay.
And that's when I started learning Adobe.
That's cool. And really quick, could you repeat, when did you stop? You said before high school?
So I just did like a little editing 4th grade, a little editing like 8th grade.
Yeah.
So a little here and there,
Yeah.
and then none in high school.
So were you not like a Photoshop user even? You were just
Nah.
making these little video edits?
No, and I honestly never have been like a photographer, really. Like, I've done like concert
Yeah.
photos because like it's not that hard, but
For me, I grew up drawing a lot because both my parents are artists, and they always just encouraged us to draw. And so in middle school and high school, I took graphic arts, and I kind of just looked at Photoshop as like an extension of drawing, where I would, you were making Club Penguin video edits. I was like Photoshopping fake sleeve covers to Smash Bros. Brawl, you know?
Dude,
so like
yeah.
same sort of thing. And
self-taught.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I took those classes, but then I would, go out of my way to just click on like every filter effect and like learn what things do.
That's literally what it was for me and Colin in like elementary and middle school. And there's something I really love about that, where, because a lot of people who make those edits, like the Call of Duty edits and Club Penguin shit like that, it's just dudes, mostly like young people, just fucking around with the effects in the software. Like, I think about it very differently than like traditional filmmaking VFX. You know, like when you think of real VFX, I think of like, if we want to make a fire, we want to make it look as if the fire was actually filmed through the same camera as everything else. We want to make it look realistic and shit like that. But with that sort of like internet culture of editing, just Sony Vegas or whatever, you kind of want to draw attention to the edit. Like, look, I'm editing. Look, this is a cool edit I made. I kind of came from that. That's when I first got into editing. So that's always kind of stuck with me, and I've always wanted to bring some of that into the work I do. I love like stuff that looks clean and professional, but there's a lot of really dope stuff out there too that kind of like is cool editing that draws attention to itself.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of putting it. And I think, I think back to like the MTV era of music videos, when it was like these, Spike Jonze directed like ludicrous videos and shit like that. And just with all like the fisheye lenses and the shit, like they were really showy about kind of different things, like with just like camera movement and shit like that. And then, once like personal home computers were able to kind of do strong edits and effects and stuff, now people are kind of just like playing around and, like you said, like drawing attention to it and kind of creating a whole style out of, and like also like just I think about how Vine has really affected like consumers of video media in general, whether or not it's movies or YouTube videos. Like, I think Vine kind of turned everybody into a filmmaker, because like that very much so merged with Twitter humor. And I feel like around those like early 2010s years, I started to, you would start to hear people more often say this was edited well, or this was shot well. I feel like if you went back to like the 80s, there probably weren't just like random everyday people talking about the editing of anything.
Right.
But now when you see a video that's like doing really well online, you always see people in the comments being like, wow, this is edited great.
Right.
Even when it's not, because, and what I mean by that is like people have like an eye for it. They know to look for it.
Right, because they've made it a lot more accessible to people. I think that's really important. Things like Vine definitely help do that.
Yeah.
There's some that'll be like kind of mediocre or whatever. There's some that'll blow your mind. I'm sure you're familiar with Zach King.
Oh, no. Who's he?
I feel like you've probably seen his videos, just not
Sure.
remembering off the top of your head. His @ is like Final Cut King. Just search Zach King.
Should I look him up on YouTube?
Anything.
Okay.
He's huge. He's this dude who...
Oh, this fucking guy. Oh,
Yeah.
this guy's amazing.
He basically does
I thought
like...
we were about to make fun of him. He's amazing.
No. He basically does like magic tricks with video. Like,
Yeah.
he's insanely talented, and one thing I admire about him is that he's gotten to a point where, you know, he's really got his style figured out of the, like, you know what a Zach King video is like, and he's so deep into that he has a whole team around him that have been on that same page for a long time. So they have a whole community of people, I'm sure, coming up with these ideas. They bang them out once or twice a week, like crazy good videos.
Do you feel like you have like a team of people you work with, or is it all you?
I feel like, okay, so I've been making music videos for a little over 3 years, and I'm at the beginning, just now at the beginning of starting to like kind of build a team. Up until now, I've done like pretty much everything myself.
Was it like that in school?
Yeah, I mean, because while I was going to school, I was doing music videos at the same time and pretty much doing everything myself. For a while, me and Colin were co-directing things, but only like very recently am I starting to like have more of a full crew on set. Which
there were some technical difficulties. We're back. You guys only lost like 10 seconds. All right, so you were just saying you just now.
Just a little hiccup.
Yeah.
I was just saying. Over the last 3 years, I've done most of my videos like entirely by myself, and now that I've like gone through film school and graduated, and you know I want to spend the next few years starting to transition into music videos full time. You know, that's the goal, is to make a living off of this. You need a team. You know, you should find the one or two roles that suit you the best, and then find a team of people that can fit in the other roles that, you know, cover the bases that maybe you're not as good at. So yeah, on the next couple of videos I'm shooting, I have a lot bigger crews than before, and I want to start going that direction of just working with a ton of different people, like work with a bunch of different producers, bunch of different DPs.
Yeah.
You know the director JMP.
No.
He's pretty dope. I've heard him say a lot.
Is he local?
He's pretty legit.
Okay.
He did some videos for XXX before he died.
Gotcha.
He was in LA, now he's in Miami, but I remember he'd had like a Q&A on his story one time, and someone asked about like finding a team, finding a crew. He says like dating, like you have to just work with a bunch of different people, see who you vibe with, see who you don't. And you know, I look at people like Zach King, it's like clearly he's gone through that trial and error of like he's found the people, because like with Zach King stuff, they'll do like 86 takes of something so that it's exactly perfect. Like it's truly amazing how they do it. So you got to get people that understand that, and then can start thinking like that too.
Yeah, filmmaking's so tricky because there's like the idea conception part of it, there's the planning, and then the budgeting and staffing. Like it's like deciding to make a video of any kind is kind of like deciding to make a temporary company for a set number of days and weeks, where you have like fucking employees and like shift days, and like there's like you're kind of like doing like a tent pole LLC for a week.
I love that though.
I don't know to what degree you can even answer this question, but like, do you get a budget like every time you make something, or are you doing like freebie ones? Yeah.
Now I do. When I was not really known in like the Arizona scene, I was just hitting people up saying, "I fuck with your music.
Yeah.
Like, let's do a video. I'll do it for free." And that worked a lot to just network with a lot of people. But yeah, nowadays I have a budget for every video I do.
Yeah, it's always conflicting to me because I know that. See, like, I really want to be working with musicians that, like, I genuinely believe in, and, like, I think that
I think it's the most important thing.
Yeah, like, I really want to, like, really be into what the people I'm working with are making, you know? And I've, you know, had the good fortune of knowing a number of really talented musicians. And the thing is like, I understand that most people in their early 20s do not have a ton of disposable income, but like renting nice lights or renting nice lenses is just inherently expensive.
It's the whole budget.
And then if I'm bringing on friends to be staff, it's like they all kind of deserve like at least $100 a day. And, you know, so then at that point you're looking at like this price head of a minimum of like $1,000 per video. And, you know, this guy has like 3 singles that he's trying to do. So I find myself conflicted a lot when an artist is interested in me and he's like, yeah, let's do like 3 of them. What's your budget? or like, what's your rate? And I kind of, to not be doing me or my friends a disservice, have to tell them like $3,000 to $4,000. And I'm like, most people can't manage that. So then it's like, do you undercut your price and just make it not as good, or do you dip into your own money for the artistic principle of making it as good as you want it to be? Because this is like your work too, you know?
It's so hard, especially, because exactly like you said, local musicians, you know, they don't have the budget to, you know, they got other things to pay for besides music videos. It's not the only thing they got to spend their money on. So I've done quite a few videos with pretty good budgets and have yet to really make any money. Like 90 to 100% of the budget goes into the video every time. Yeah. And the way I look at it is, you know, that's unfortunately just how this type of work is set up, where for the first several years, at least this is the kind of the strategy that I'm taking, is you got to kind of just put 90 to 100% of the budget into the video and rely on something else to pay your bills until the budgets get big enough that it can transition to a full thing. So like go ahead.
And that's where I think you're smart probably not going immediately to Los Angeles, because I've had a full-time job since I've graduated. I've been saving money. That's why I'm able to like have these microphones and the cameras that are recording us, and you know, that all winds up paying itself back off when I'm able to do all these projects without having to rent stuff, you know. But like, yeah, my dream would be able to have like a Patreon that's doing really well, and then I'm literally getting a paycheck each month from the work I'm making because people like it. Like that's kind of the dream, where you're making stuff, you're artistically satisfied, and you're literally getting a monetary reflection that other people are watching it and enjoying it, and it pays itself. But like, goddamn, is that a long road?
Would you ever do educational content down the line?
Like filmmaking stuff, behind the scenes? I'm open to it. I just think that that's like a really saturated YouTube market. Yeah,
well, one thing that I think could be a good a revenue thing that's becoming a lot more popular nowadays is people who will make who will have a lot of credibility. They'll post a lot of great videos on Instagram, whatever, and then they'll sell like $100 crash course of how to do their thing, which I think is really efficient, because it's like they spend 3 to 6 months making a high quality course. Maybe you have to spend a little time every week or month to maintain the website or whatever, but for the most part, it just sells virtual copies of it for the rest of forever. Yeah. Like there's a really cool dude on Instagram named Andres Raw. He does like hyperlapses through Berlin, and he just goes to cool landmarks and does a bunch of crazy videos, and they always went crazy on Instagram. And then he came out with like a class for like $100 or something, just breaking it down. And you know, I heard you talking on your podcast with Dylan about learning stuff online, and it's like, you know, it's really disappointing hearing you say that the ASU professors were like, oh, we don't want to think that people have that option to like go online.
Let me amend that statement a little bit. So this was specifically one guy who I think is one of the better professors there. And he was putting the blame of this more on the university than his own personal philosophy. But that being said, when I was describing to him, hey, here's all these great resources that I think the best of your students are learning from, because they're going out of their way to teach themselves things outside of the classroom. Yeah. In my mind, that's the ideal student, you know, somebody who is going to college not for a degree, but because they want to learn, and they're learning stuff even when somebody isn't telling them. When I was describing this to him, he was, you know, explaining why the university might not want that sort of educational syllabus, you know, I can't think of the word, but he curriculum. Yeah. But he also at the same time was not excitedly being like, oh, that's great, you know. So there still was a little bit of an attitude of that's different than what we do, and I really think that there should be a marriage between the two. Oh yeah,
because I think for them, you know, not talking about whatever profession you talk about specifically, just for like university in general, to deny how much information available online is undeniable. Yeah. You know, like, I'm being totally honest, I went to ASU Film School 3.5 years. I would say 90% of what I know about making music videos is YouTube, self-taught, just going out and doing it. Like, I definitely made good connections at school. I definitely learned certain things, just being in the classroom, knowing, oh, okay, this is what they teach in the classroom. Yeah, it's helpful.
Business of Media Industries with Greg Bernstein is one of the best classes I've ever taken. Okay. Did you have to take that?
No.
damn it.
There were a few classes I took that were really good, but I feel like the reason they were really good is because the professor knew their shit. I didn't want to cut you off. You want to talk about that class?
Oh, no. Sorry, I kind of cut you off.
No,
I
good.
just, all I was going to say is the things I got most out of ASU education and subject-wise was like business and planning and producing and probably like writing and ethics, because they talk a lot about like ethical filmmaking and not asking people to like go film something on an active train track, and the writing education, like writing's a really hard thing to teach, especially to yourself, honestly, unless you just are a person who has constant ideas.
Right.
And business wise, like I think that there's a strong emphasis in their curriculum to like make you understand, like with show business, there's the show part and the business part, and a lot of us as professors, have had careers over there, so we'll kind of explain to you like what sort of stuff to expect. All of that was great, but in terms of having like a lot of hands-on, like let's work with a camera all day long and explain like these lighting things, like there were a few of those days in the whole like 3.5 years.
You had like FMP 300. You busted out the lights like one day.
Yeah.
I would say the most valuable classes I took. One was Intro to Screenwriting with Gregory Mayday. Did you have any? Mayday?
Mayday is a legend, dude. He's the best.
He was great because he was legit. Like, he legit had a successful career as a producer in Hollywood. I forget which major studio, but he was like a big time executive.
He was friends with like Frank Sinatra and George
he told us
Miller
stories of like talking to like Tim Burton and shit. Like he knew his shit. As a bonus, he didn't really care about grades. He was
and you know what's amazing about him? He remembers everybody. And he's like an older guy, but like before I even really had his class, I had a few really small run-ins with him, and if I was in the hallway of like Dixie Gamage and he like walked by, he would come back, like poke his head and be like, "Is that Zane?" And I'm like, and he would like start asking me like, "So, are you still gonna make that film?" And I'm like, "How do you know
That's
this?"
Awesome.
Like that, like he's
got a library in his head.
Well, I think he's just a really observant and attentive person. I think he's very present.
Yeah, I loved his class because his vibe was just to pretty much talk at us about real stories, real experience and shit. He was just a wealth of knowledge, and like, that was really valuable information. Just listening to him talk all the time. The other, I would say, which I think is something you probably took, Intro to VFX with Paul DeNigris. Did you take any classes with him?
So that guy actually used to teach at another film school, really a technology school in the area called... There was a technical difficulty again. This might just keep happening. I don't know. So Paul, I don't think he taught at ASU while I was still going there. But
I think he's new when I took that class.
Yeah, I had run-ins with him because he was teaching at this other film school where me and my friends participated in a 48-hour film challenge. And one of my buddies, his name is Jordan Whipple. He's like one of the most talented filmmakers I met in Arizona, and he was from Australia and like moved over here to do filmmaking.
Okay.
Yeah, but Paul, he did like some legit work for like actual like network shows and whatnot.
Oh yeah, shouts out Professor Paul. I took Intro to VFX, and then which was just After Effects, and then there was Advanced VFX. I think it was called Gorilla VFX, but it was Advanced VFX.
Yeah.
Which was Nuke, and then there's a third one I didn't get to take because I graduated after that. I don't know, Expert VFX or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most valuable classes I taught, again, because the professor knew their shit. Like, he was a real VFX artist who'd worked in the industry as long as I had been alive.
What'd they teach you?
Just so in the After Effects class, he just covered all of the bases of like, here's the fundamental VFX techniques. We're going to teach you keying. We're going to teach you rotoscoping. We're going to teach you how to glow eyes and do energy effects. So just like we did a day for night type shot. So it's kind of just like, here's a wide assortment of assignments that'll teach you. Here's the types of things that happen in VFX. But what was really valuable to me was not so much those assignments. It was actually watching and listening to him do it and like think out loud to himself while he was doing it, because he would adjust some settings on a glow or a fire or something and say like, yeah, that feels good, that looks good. And that really stuck with me because it told me that he was going off of what felt good to him and what felt right to him. which really kind of gave me the confidence to do the same thing with my stuff. You know, like if I'm adjusting something and it feels right here, like you should trust that. You know, before that I wouldn't really know. I don't know, is this good? Is it not? Learning that this dude's, again, he'd done like 20 years of VFX at that point, and he kind of just, you know, before that I would think like what is going through like a VFX artist's head when there is probably some foreign language that I could never understand. And it's really just some dude saying, oh yeah, a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, that feels good.
That being said, it definitely is a blessing that like we have the tools we have now to do it so easily, because like when Corridor was breaking down, I think like the original Tron movie VFX shots, like they were showing how like that was back in the days where like they didn't even, I don't know if they didn't have a visual interface or what, but basically like to make those effects, they had to like put in like mathematics for key instead of keyframes. So they would be like, at this second, here's all the math of what we're supposed to see, and then at this second, this has happened. And then they would, you know, in theory, spend thousands to millions of dollars of studio money rendering the shit out for way longer than we would, and then they would display the results and be like, all right, the shot looks the way we want it to, or it doesn't, let's go adjust. That's insane. So the fact that you can just like drag on a slider like glow settings and have real-time feedback, like that's,
I admired that stuff, but that's kind of where I began to be turned off by the like traditional VFX. I'm just not so in love with getting into all the math and physics of how does the light particles bounce off and shit like that. Like,
well, all that being said, the main reason I brought that up was kind of lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. I'm trying to.
Well, you were explaining how like. Yeah, what was I trying to say? Fuck. I'm so,
Don't worry about it, dude.
It just sucks.
We're talking about Paul Corridor.
Well, no, you were talking about how Paul was talking about like how the shot felt good and kind of weathering it in because of that. And you just said like, oh, I got turned off of like traditional VFX. I don't really know if there is a such thing as traditional VFX. I just think that the technology changes and things are easier like labor wise, but in terms of having like an artistic feel, that's constant. It's just like what you have to do to get it changes, you know. But that being said too, I think the more that you spend time with like a passion, the more you kind of start to have a want to learn more and more and improve more and more. So it's like I hear you say that now, like you don't want to learn about like light particles and shit, but maybe a few years from now you'll be using Blender and doing like original animations. And
I guess what I mean when I say like traditional VFX, I'm thinking like a certain quality standard and like cleanliness standard that you would need to be on like TV or in a movie theater, versus you'll see some YouTube videos with some editing that, you know, I don't know, what's an example? They throw dollar signs over the eyes or something. Like, that doesn't look lifelike. That's like editing that's drawing attention to itself. And you don't need to stay true to the physics of how that would work and shit like that. Like, because for me, what it comes down to is just stuff that is cool, stuff that's exciting, stuff that looks good. And it doesn't have to follow the laws of physics and shit like that. And that's one of the things I love so much about music videos is that it not only welcomes but encourages stuff that breaks reality. You know, you don't have to follow continuity as much. You don't like you're expected to break the rules and do experimental shit, which I love. Like, I feel like you could literally study anything and find a way to bring that into music videos. You could get really into architecture, bring that into music videos. You can get really into typography, bring that in. Like, anything you're interested in can find a place in music videos.
Yeah, I think I love that too, because like growing up, like I watched a bit of music videos as I was like super into like rock bands, and you know, like Michael Gondry did like really good White Stripes ones, and Spike Jonze was like killing it. One thing I will say about the VFX boom that's happened is I get a little bit disencouraged by the oversaturation of it in music videos. Not to say that like visual effects are inherently bad, but I think when I think we're living in a culture now where everybody's trying to figure out the formula of like how to be viral because they want to be successful as fast as possible because they don't think that there's enough room for everybody.
Which is not true.
So they think, that guy can't be successful because I need to be.
Right.
But I think usually when people have a mindset like that, they're also looking at proven methods. So in other words, like things that people have done in the past successfully.
Right.
And right now, like a lot of visual effects things, like thanks to Cole Bennett and Lyrical Lemonade, like not only is that sort of stuff successful, but it's I don't want to say it's easy to do, but anyone can do it if they want to.
Yeah.
And because of that, like if you go to Instagram right now and type in like hashtag VFX, you're going to see a lot of really subpar videos that just kind of have the thing where like the animated line is just tracing all over them and shit,
That's
like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's not that that's inherently bad. I think that those sorts of things are like good for people to learn or to have fun, whatever it is. But something that I do appreciate about how you direct videos is I can see that you're very much so trying to do stuff that people haven't seen before. Because like with the like you did that video games music video, and I think that's like my favorite one by you, and I remember that you said that other video people have said the same to you. And the thing is you're implementing a number of different effects that I have seen before for sure. I don't know how much you invented in that video, but the way in which you're combining them so effectively is great. Like you're doing super zooms. People have seen those before, but you're like mixing it with the whole like heat vision iridescence thing.
Right,
and it feels very much so like you took the vibe of the song, the mood of the song, and you visually represented it.
Right.
And to me, that's like one of the biggest tasks of a filmmaker. Like Dylan was talking about how Overcast, they try to create an aesthetic that matches the artist. I think that
they do a really good job of that.
Yeah, and I think I see like a plethora of people on the internet not remotely thinking that way, and they're just kind of making stuff. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just in terms of trying to like progress creativity or culture or make people feel like they don't have to make something the same way as the last 10 things they saw. Like I see a little bit of a negative as well.
Right. Well, yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because that's definitely what I'm aiming to do is I want to make stuff that people haven't seen before. And like I said, I've been doing this a little over 3 years, and I feel like only as of like the last 6 months, I've started to figure out like, okay, I think this is what my style is going to be like. And I'm still in the very early stages of like working on the fundamental techniques and stuff. But at this point, I have a pretty vivid vision of what it can be, what it will be. And so I'm really thankful to get to work with artists that, let me have a lot of creative control on the videos. Like the way I like to go about it is let's have a conversation about what the song means to you, what's important to you about it, because I want it to revolve around that. But give me the creative control to tell that story with the techniques that are best suited for my skills. Yeah. And with the gamer video, I was watching it the other day. I feel like the video within my career was ahead of its time. I'm not saying it's ahead of its time like in filmmaking at large. I mean, I just happened to do stuff in that video that is going to be pretty fundamental to the way I make videos moving forward. Yeah. Like with the fucked up colors, with the hyper zoom shit like that. I love stuff like that. And yeah, those are definitely things I'm gonna continue to do in the future. Also, shouts out Bonnie, Anthony, and Josh. Those are the two guys who made this. Literally one of my favorite videos to get to work on because it was just so free. I love the song. Like the production and the flow just work so well together. And going back to what you're saying earlier, like when you get to work on a song that you actually resonate with, that you actually really enjoy, I feel like you can bring out so much more. Like when you're actually inspired by a song you actually like, you get to make a video for a song you actually like, I feel like you have so much better ideas. Like for me, I'm a very I would consider myself kind of like a reactive creative, if that makes sense. Like I'd never really come up with anything on its own. It's always a reaction to something else. So like
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like listening to music, I will a lot of time. This is actually what made me switch majors. Like I was having a shitty time in computer science, longboarding back to class, listening to music, and I was just thinking about how a lot of times when I listen to music, I would imagine visuals like, oh, what would the music video be like if I made it? And I was like, why don't I fucking go for it? Why don't I do that? Mm-hmm. And that's to this day how I think of stuff. I'll like walk in circles, walk around, whatever, and just listen to a bunch of music. A lot of times, let's say I have X song that I need to work on. Before even listening to that, I'll listen to 10 of just like my favorite songs because I'll have like vivid imaginations to those and get the ideas going, and then listen to the other thing and kind of bridge the gap. But
let me ask you, is it being so reactive where like you hear something and then that's where you're getting the idea from, that to an extent implies that you're not having ideas when you don't have something to work on? I don't know if that's true. For me, that can feel true sometimes, and it's pretty frustrating because I can definitely feel like a fraud if I've gone a number of like days and weeks where I haven't had like any original ideas. And because I just think of the hypothetical, the dream scenario of like, hey, Kanye is calling and he needs 5 idea premises now. And I'm like, I don't have a vault. Yeah. But a lot of musicians, they have hundreds of beats just tucked away for when they come across their favorite like rapper or singer. So for me, I find it to be a little bit of a crutch sometimes where I am glad that my ideas are specific to the song, but I also wish I had a lot more in the vault. I have some for sure. Yeah. But when I go long stretches, it's...
Yeah, like I don't really have anything written down like here's my vault of like... I used to do that, but now kind of the way I guess I store them is like I said, I would listen to some of my favorite songs. There's a lot of... I'm a very repetitive guy. Like I'll find a song I like and just spam it, that whole week. So there's some songs I've had like kind of imaginations to of a video, and I've gone back to it so many times I can go and listen to it and like recall that whole thing. So I guess that's a way of like mentally storing certain ideas that you could pull out and apply something else.
I think in terms of color and tone and mood more than anything. So like all of the videos for the most part I've made for musicians, like the color was like the main thing first, and because that to me kind of informs like how I want it to feel.
Do you think in terms of like like the rules of like color theory, like which colors represent emotions, or is it something else for you?
No, I just really like color palettes. Good. To be honest. Good. And I've always been the person where like all numbers and letters in my brain have like a color and like even like a gender. Nice, I like that. I don't know why, but
no,
like
I understand that. Yeah.
So like with Eureka for Lil Cordy, that was the first music video I'd ever directed, and it to me just felt very dark green. And that song's so good, and I was so frustrated because I was sitting with it I think for like multiple weeks with like nothing. I didn't know how to visually represent it at all. And I remember Jay texted me once something, it was such a basic request. He was like, I think this has to be somewhere cool. And I forget what the other part of it was, but like I was like, okay, somewhere cool. Yeah. And I was at this plant nursery I've been to with my family like a million times, and I was looking around and like there were tarps, shading from the sky, so there's just perfect, even lighting in there, and there's just plants everywhere, and I'm like, this is a vibe. And also, who's like rapping in a plant nursery? Kind of no one. So this will be perfect. And now, like, a lot of the time, people will still tell me that's their favorite one that I've made, and I really like it too. But it kind of like it's kind of conceptless to an extent. It just has like a feeling that in my mind matches like what you're listening to.
Right. Yeah. Something that you said on a podcast a while ago, I think it was probably with Snot. Shouts out Snot.
Yeah, Snotty Man.
I love Snot.
Snotty Man,
Great
Snotty
man.
Chan. Yeah.
You were talking to him just about films and how every aspect of filmmaking at the end of the day points back to the story. Yeah. And I've come to the same conclusion. I think of emotion and story together, and I think that's why so many different types of videos can succeed, whether it's one that's heavily edited, one that's heavy on cinematography, anything in between. It doesn't really matter the techniques used or anything like that. It all adds up to how it makes you feel, how it makes you think, and what the story is. And that's what people get out of it. Period.
And there are really amazing music videos that don't really tell a story at all. It's really just like a feeling they're trying to connotate.
The atmosphere.
But usually that atmosphere still matches the song. Right. And then sometimes you have exceptions where maybe the video is the exact opposite.
It's like a juxtaposition.
But even then, you're still tethered to the song. So one way or another, they have to be linked together.
Right.
And that's why, like, when I see like a plethora of videos and it's just a guy on a stairwell and then a guy in a parking lot, I'm like, dude, like, go to the park at least. Like, go slow.
Again, I appreciate what you said earlier, the compliment about making stuff that we haven't really seen, because that's ultimately what I want to do, you know. I don't really have any interest in making quote unquote basic or traditional stuff, you know, like just, you know, super normal stuff that we've seen a million times. Like, I'm really inspired by people who find like a direction that nobody has gone before, and then they go really far in that direction. Have you heard of a guy called Syriac?
No.
He is fantastic.
A musician or a video maker?
He's a video maker. One of his most standout videos is called Cirrus for Bonobo. I'll show you later.
Sure.
It's fantastic. And I love this dude because he's like a super introvert. He doesn't fuck with anybody. He doesn't work with anybody. Like, he was talking about how he actually, after he became successful, he did like a presentation to some people and had like a graph of like number of people involved in the project, pain in the ass that it is, like, and so he doesn't like shooting the artist, doesn't like anything like that. So what he does is he just sits at his computer and edits stock photos and stock videos and animates them really well and makes these extravagant like patterns and scenes out of stock photos and videos. And that's an example of he's gone extreme, like he's gotten to like expert level at that, and there's no close second in the world that I've seen. There's nobody in the world who's even close to as good at that as him. So he's like so stand out that you watch the first 10 seconds of the video and know nobody but him could have made this.
You know, I've tried to do stuff from that same method. I had a stock video account at one point, and like I make like little animated visualizers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't really think of an example, but I've certainly tried to make stuff before where I'm sitting at my desk and I have the mindset of like, can I just make something really good from me just sitting right here and not having to go like text or meet with anyone? With him, it sounds more like artistically he gets frustrated by other people. And with me, it was just more so panic over like, I need to make something now and fast and cheap. You know, I don't want to have to deal with scheduling or a budget. I just need to get something out. And that sort of stuff, like if you're good at it, like, you know, in theory you have infinite resources, but it's also really hard. But like the main reason I make little animated song visualizers is literally just to like, one, it's just kind of a fun little hobby, but because I kind of look at like graphic arts and visual effects and all that stuff as just like my hobby. I don't really consider it like my main thing, but like it gives me a way to like give a proof of concept to an artist, like, hey, this is what it would feel like if I made a video for you, you know? So whether or not it's, you know, like I have like a little lyric video for 100 gecs, and I have like animated visualizer for a few other musicians, and it's kind of nice to be like, well, I didn't get hired by this person to make a video for them, but I have a video of their song to present now.
And those are valuable even if it never comes out. Like there's videos I've made kind of similar, just totally for fun, that never came out. They're just sitting in Premiere that I've totally benefited from because I figured some shit out, or like I refer to it back later. Like I feel like all the work that you do, especially if it's exploring an interest of any kind, it all adds up. You know, like the famous like Steve Jobs quote about like, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but it's easy to connect them looking back. Like once you've made it and you're at a certain point, it's easy to look back and say, oh, all of these things happen, and that's how it led up to here.
You know what's funny is like I made a little animated visualizer for Vegan Beef by Lil Cordy, and I had made that project file and that animation like almost a year prior, and it was just kind of sitting for a long time, and I made it to a different song. But then when I decided to make that little visualizer, I was able to just plug his song in, and then now it's reacting to that one instead of the old one. I added some new tweaks and stuff to make it cooler, but for the most part, like I was able to just turn that around in 2 seconds because I just had the project file sitting, waiting for a song.
You said it's reacting to the music? Do you use like sound keys or something?
Stuff like that. Yeah. I use like a lot of like Red Giant trap code software. So that's how like a lot of that stuff was made. But what's funny is like several months later, Amine's album Limbo came out, and they have a visualizer, and it's the exact same shit where it's like a little green orb in the center of the screen, and it's reacting to the song. And if you look closely, the lighting pattern on it is identical to mine, because whoever made it for Amine clearly watched the same YouTube tutorial that I did, and he just chose the same like lighting texture to wrap around this track. So I literally was like, I know what you did. Literally know it.
Yeah. I know for sure we watched the same tutorial.
Yeah, but no, like, I mean, that was just out of me, like, wanting to just have a little bit of an interest on how to learn something. And then, like, a year later, I had something to plug into it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, to bring it back to learning stuff online. Like I said, 90% of what I know about music videos I learned online. And it's like, there's so many good resources out there. I think it's frustrating that school would deny it, like, I was in a class for like an hour and a half where we were going over color grading, when before that class I had watched like a 15-minute video from a professional colorist in the industry just going over the basics of color grading. Like there's so many professionals out there making free videos. You got professional colorists making videos on that. You got professional DPs making videos on lighting for free on YouTube, let alone there's some like online courses you could pay $100 for, compared to like the thousands of dollars that colleges.
Well, I remember back when I was younger, like 2009-ish, my older brother was showing me that like fucking John Frusciante from Red Hot Chili Peppers was on YouTube, like with little tutorials on how to play like Under the Bridge. And even that, like the whole just having like a big name person self-broadcast what they do. I remember that. I was like, well, it's crazy that you can just learn from the guy how to play the song. So as far as like filmmaking stuff goes, like audio visual learning is just so different from a lecture hall lecture. So I feel like if you're going to be teaching something in a lecture, it should really be something best suited for that room environment, because if it's something that can be better, where the ideas can be better transmitted through like a little like 10-minute motion graphics video essay, where you're having topics and like techniques explained through like animations or like filmed shots, that's great. Because when I took intro to film, like, the teacher was older and a lot slower, and the class would be an hour and a half, and I remember having entire lectures about like the frame within a frame shots and the searchers, or like the X's that show up in Scarface or whatever. And I'm like, man, if this was like an every frame of paintings video, this would have been like 6 minutes, and he would have somehow found a way to make twice as many points.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's a really dope guy on YouTube called This Guy Edits. He's a guy who is a professional editor and shit, and his videos are very insightful. I watch him just to understand more of the kind of like film editing. He had a really cool video talking about the end of Interstellar and how
that's like my favorite movie.
Yeah, one of my favorites too. Fantastic. I'm just a big Christopher Nolan fan.
Yeah.
He was talking about how they're intercutting between 3 scenes at the end, and
it's like every Nolan movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really like that he makes kind of like concept movies, like with Memento, they have the thing where one time
I actually have never seen Memento.
This isn't a spoiler. Okay. This is a spoiler. But
I was so afraid.
No, I won't. You should watch it. It's fantastic.
Please don't ruin Memento.
Fantastic.
I've gone this long without having it ruined.
No, this isn't a spoiler, but this is like the concept of how they approached the filmmaking of it. Is there's certain scenes. Let me see. I think there's most of the scenes start at the end, and then we move backwards to the beginning. So we'll see a scene, and then we'll see the scene before it, see the scene before it, see the scene before it. And in between those, I think there's short little bits that are moving forwards.
Well, that's what's so interesting about Dunkirk, where it's 3 people's stories all happening during the same event, but one starts a week ago, one starts a day ago, one starts an hour ago, and then the scenes start colliding in ways where like an airplane scene from the beginning soars over in the background of the boat scene, and you go, oh, that was the beginning of the movie running by.
Right.
The first time I saw Dunkirk, I hated it, because I did not really when the movie started, I thought that's what the opening title cards were saying the movie was going to be, but I wasn't 100%, because they don't spoon feed it to you. They just kind of put 1 week, 1 month, and you're like, okay. And by the end, I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? And then the second time I watched it, having known what I was going to get myself into, having these expectations, I was like, that was a masterpiece.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I know it's kind of, I don't know, cliche, but Inception's still like one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
Like that's just one that no matter how many times I come back to, there's so many things to appreciate about it.
I think it's so lame when people bash on like Inception or The Social Network and shit, because I understand that there's for sure like this like film school film bro stereotype where like all they like is Christopher Nolan and Tarantino and shit. I get that. Those guys, like if you have a certain dickheadish attitude and you're like sexist and stuff, those guys suck. But in general, if we're just talking about like the quality of these movies, like, dude, like Inception is so good.
Right. And is Christopher Nolan sexist?
Oh no, I don't mean him. I just mean like film students who were just
I got you.
Like there's like I think a stereotype about like these like film dudes who were just like way too into Reservoir Dogs and
I got you.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, but yeah, like Inception, when that came out roughly the same time of year as The Social Network did, like I remember seeing those two movies in 2010 and being like, oh shit, movies can be this good.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, like leaving the theater, coming out of Inception, like. It's just so good. My all-time favorite movie though is The Prestige. Have you seen that?
No.
That's another Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, two rival magicians. Mm-hmm. I just love the kind of two rival geniuses story. Kind of like Death Note. Yeah. Prestige is similar. I really love it because they both have their own obsession. Mm-hmm. And this isn't the spoiler. It's just like the beginning of the movie. They start as friends. Something happens that pits them against each other, and then they just keep escalating and taking shots at each other. Really, really cool movie.
I watched like most of it one year, and it's kind of blasphemous that I didn't like finish it. But then the more and more that time went by, I'm like, I just need to run this back from the beginning because I can't just jump back into this. You should, for sure. And before that movie, I didn't know Christian Bale was actually British.
Yeah, right.
I thought Batman, like he had me sold. I thought Batman was American. Sure.
I like his regular accent better though.
Well, when I was watching The Prestige, I like paused it and I yelled over to my roommates and I was like, guys, Christian Bale's British accent sucks. I thought it sounded fake and they were like, you're kidding, right? And I'm like, no. I was like, it's really bad. And they're like, he's British. That's his actual voice.
Right.
And somehow I thought it sounded inauthentic.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Good ass movie. Definitely one where everything is important. Everything that they show you is important.
Do you find it frustrating trying to like show friends or family members art that you're into, whether or not it's a full movie or a YouTube video, and having to explain like, okay, every moment of this is intentional and I want you to watch the whole thing and not like get distracted or walk away or whatever. Yeah,
there's definitely certain things that I feel like are kind of niche that I'm really into. Like, like I said, I came from the like CPMV and Call of Duty edit thing as a kid. So I still really like AMVs, like anime music videos that people will make. There's some really talented people out there making those. So there'll be like really sick like Naruto edits and stuff that I think it's a very specific interest because the people that like those things, one, love Naruto, and two, love editing.
Well, people have been editing like rap and like, I think mostly like trap shit to like a lot of anime clips and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember you had that Instagram account. Were you doing one a day?
I was doing one a day for like 50 days. Yeah.
Okay. So were you like really... embarrassing. So were you like really intentionally choosing the anime clips to the songs, or were you just kind of slapping them together?
It was kind of just, I'm just taking it one day at a time. I'm just gonna make something. I was inspired by Beeple, the guy who has done 12 years of everydays.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Let me do this for a while. And honestly, most of the time it was just that day. I would just find like a cool fight scene that I hadn't done yet, and figure out the song and everything.
Because have you seen that YouTube video? I think it's literally just titled like Frank Ocean Tribute, but then it's set to all those like Studio Ghibli movies.
I haven't seen that.
So it's gotten recommended to me so many times, so I always come back to it. But there's this person who basically edited. We're talking about so many different little editing worlds. He basically edited random. Well, not random. I mean, it feels intentional, but basically, like, not every song from Blonde, but a good number of songs from Blonde. And he kind of, like, did a mix where, like, one song will, like, fizzle out into the other one. So it's almost like, you know, like, if you were listening to just the audio, he made this kind of, like, a medley, like, almost like a DJ set. But then visually, he has it set to a mix of Studio Ghibli, like, Miyazaki movies, like Castle in the Sky and stuff, and Akira. I'm just going to pick up where I was. Yeah, and so, like, this person basically edited, like, these Blonde songs to, you know, Akira and Studio Ghibli, which are so popular everywhere. And so I wouldn't say the whole thing is amazing, but, like, some of the portions, like, it feels really intentional, and, like, the song is building really well to the clip used and stuff. And I think he used kind of some, like, corny, like, title effects at one point that kind of ruined it. But I watched, like, Fantasia a lot as a kid, and, like, yeah, like, having animation, like, perfectly mirror the music you're listening to, like, it's so satisfying.
I love that stuff. I really love, like, really good sync. Like, if you watched the edits I would do on that anime account, like, I did hella of that. Like, I just really love visuals that are synced to the music.
That's what I was kind of trying to ask, like, if you were trying to, like, get them to sync well.
I see what you mean. Yeah, like, regardless, I'd find a way with the editing to, like, make moments stand out, like, to the beat or whatever. Yeah, I would do a lot of stuff with, like, the coloring to make it fit, I think. But honestly, not too much thought went into, like, which fight scenes. It was just about the editing practice, and I'm really glad I did that for those 50 days, because, you know, it made it pretty clear there were certain things I kept doing every day. It's like, okay, this is stuff I want to do.
Well, see, I had initially asked you if it was frustrating or not when you're trying to show somebody something and like having the precursor that, like, they need to pay attention, and I guess what I meant by that is, like, you know, sometimes there's, like, a movie you really want to show somebody, but, like, it just feels like a particularly intentionally made movie where, like, you want them to see it the way they would in a theater, and, like, it's such a chore to, like, say to somebody, not only do I want you to, like, watch this thing and take some time, I want you to, like, watch every second of it.
Yeah, I want you to watch every second, then when it's done, I'm going to show you this Reddit thread that has a bunch of really cool points made about it.
Yeah, that's where, like, you can't do the follow-up. You can't start breaking out analysis. But, like,
for sure.
Yeah, because, you know, people just kind of want to, like, pause or get up or check their phone or whatever it is. But, like, the feeling of having, like, the best part of something come up, and that's right when the person you're with misses it, like, it's just like,
it's happening right now. Like,
it's like the worst
like, you'll see out of the corner of their eye, your eye, they start to look down right as the thing is about to happen.
And you're like, that changes the whole way I feel about this entire piece.
It's tough, because, you know, obviously art is subjective, and different people are going to get different things out of it, and you want, if you have a good experience, a really good experience with something, you want other people to feel that same thing. You can't really force it on people.
There was this one time Elijah showed me a song when we were, like, driving home down the road, you know, and we were parked just outside the house, and we I think we had smoked, like, a little bit of weed, like, off of a pen, you know, so I was just, like, in that, just, like, kind of just like with my pal, like, the barely high, you know, just in the car where, like, sounds the best, and he's showing me this song, and to this day I think it might be the best song I ever heard in my life. And, like, I've tried showing this song to other people, and I never, like, I've had people be like, that was cool, but I've never had somebody, like, freak out the way that I did when I first heard it. And, like, that's fine because I got to have that moment, but I also, like, think, like, it must have been fun for him to be able to show me something and then get, like, the best reaction you could have gotten out of, like, showing something to somebody, you know?
For sure.
So it's always a really exciting thing when you can actually, like, be hyped up about something share it with somebody, and then have them come back and be like, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
That's such a good feeling.
Yeah, like, you know, I've been trying to, you know, make more friends with people who are also doing filmmaking and stuff, you know, just especially other people making music videos, because I just like being able to hit people up and just talk about stuff, you know, like, we all have the same goals. We all want to make a living making art.
Is that to say you didn't have too many filmmaking friends in school?
I mean, yeah, I definitely had friends in school, and there's a lot of people I went to school with that I really like, especially the people that were in the editing track with me. I guess just as far as people that are trying to make it in music videos, you know, so like are currently taking on music videos, and that's the goal, is to make a living off of it. Just because it really helps to ask people questions, because you can't know everything. Everybody knows something that you don't.
Is your ultimate goal to be like the prominent music video director? Like, do you not want to direct movies? Do you want to like be like the music video guy?
Yeah, I don't really care about, I mean, maybe I'm sure in 10 to 15 years I'll change as a person, and maybe I'll want to do features.
So I think that's really cool, honestly.
Yeah, as of now, the way I've always been my whole life is I'll go through phases of like hobbies and stuff. I get like really obsessed about it, and whenever I get into it, I literally want to be the best at it, whatever that thing is. But I would burn out of things because it would last like 6 months to a year. But music videos has lasted the longest, and I think it's because, one, you can actually make a living off of it, and two, I don't really burn out, because it's like, let me get really into this video for 2 to 3 months, and then get into this totally different video for 2 to 3 months. Like, I can explore different worlds, and I'm still working on the same thing, but I'm not working on the exact same thing. And yeah, as of now, and for the last 3 years, that's what my goal has been. I just want to be one of the best music video directors out there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people do stuff as like a means to an end, and I think there's also like in terms of stigmas, like I was just re-listening to Bo Burnham on H3H3 a little bit, which I was actually really surprised. He was on there promoting 8th grade, and I actually would have thought that he was far along in his career to where like maybe he wouldn't have been on like a YouTube-y podcast. Because I knew that he was on that show, but I would have assumed it was like back when he was promoting like his comedy specials, you know. And to that point, I think as people like, you know, level up in their career, they sort of associate with others differently. They do business deals differently. You know, you're less gettable for interviews, and like something Ethan from H3 said to Bo is, we could argue that you're the most successful YouTuber of all time, because you went from being like a 18-year-old in your, you know, room or whatever to
Netflix stand-up specials
to I don't know if he was Oscar or Golden Globe nominated, but he was at least like on the cusp of it for sure, like a really good A24 movie.
Yeah, he's a prodigy.
And you know, he kind of laughed and said, I don't think that's true really. And Ethan was like, well, what? Who else has done that and done that bigger than you? And he was just kind of like, well, there's YouTubers right now that are getting like more views than my movie will, and this and that. And he was kind of saying like, you're putting the medium of YouTube like as an inherently lower totem pole thing to like a movie, you know, because I think culturally we're conditioned to think of things like that. Like when television was first invented, there were TV actors and movie actors, and those two industries like looked down and up to each other, you know, respectively. So I think that like the whole like the medium is the message thing, like there's definitely a cultural way that we're kind of programmed to look at like tiers of success, and especially with art.
So you're saying that you're expected to like go to features after?
It's not that you're expected, it's just I think that like if you're an aspiring filmmaker, it might be a little bit less common for somebody to own the fact that like their ultimate goal is to be a really good music video director, because even myself, like I'll admit like I really like doing this sort of thing, but I more than anything want to direct movies. I'd love to be like a Spike Jonze person where I'm directing movies and then just also doing music videos in my free time, because I like doing them.
But
I think a lot of people kind of, maybe the reason their art isn't as good as it could be is because they're actually just doing stuff as a stepping stone, and it isn't even something that they actually like doing. Yeah. They just look at it as like a necessary evil to get to something bigger and better.
I'll put it this way. The way I see it is I have very, like I said before, especially when listening to music, especially music that I genuinely like and resonate with, I have very vivid imaginations of the visuals. And it was going to take 10 years to get good enough and get a team good enough to be able to 100% fulfill those things. You know what I mean? Like, but I just have the confidence that if the visions I can see in my head were able to be brought to life, I think they would be some of the coolest videos ever. And that's really what my goal boils down. At the end of the day, no matter what I've always come back to is I just want to make some of the hardest music videos of all time. That's all I want to do.
And to go back to like my little rant at the beginning of the podcast about there being like an oversaturation of visual effects based music videos, I think or at least an oversaturation of like subpar ones, because the really good ones kind of defy the idea that that's a problem.
Right.
I think the things that I think some of my favorite music videos I loved as a kid were coming from bands where I think the philosophy of like rock music videos and the philosophy of rap videos are very different. And what I mean by this is even if you're having like a very concept heavy rap video, I think there's still this inclination where the rapper feels like they have to be rapping in it, or they have to be the main character of the video. But like, if you go look at the music video for Fluorescent Adolescent by Arctic Monkeys, right? It's a music video where it's a bunch of clowns in a playground murdering each other. And it doesn't fit the song at all, and it's one of the most memorable music videos I've ever seen because like 20 years later I still, well not 20, but like 15 years later I still think about it, and it's crazy. And like I think about Dashboard by Modest Mouse. The whole music video is like a sailor in like a saloon talking to other sailors, telling like this tale of like this big octopus that took down his ship, and it's like a full scene with subtitles. Like if you choose, like it could have been a short film, but they're silencing the audio for the song that you're listening to. But you read conversations, and then they have like these like cardboard cutout like dioramas of like the octopus like taking down the ship, and it's so great. And there is like a little bit of CGI in there, but my main point is like I think like the bubble of inventiveness of like us as like young music video directors, it hasn't even burst yet, because I think people are still thinking really narrowly with like how to come up with concepts. Because like even now, like I have some music video proposals I'm like going through with like some of the artists I'm gonna make follow-up stuff with, and some of the videos I don't want any performance shots at all in them. I just want it to be like essentially a short film.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well maybe we can grab some coverage of me doing it during the scene, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to edit that in because I don't think it adds anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there definitely is the cliche of like rock videos where it's like a short film, but then every 20 seconds it cuts to them just
everybody's playing their instruments,
playing in like a warehouse. So like, not to say bands didn't do that too, but I think that back then both the lack of accessible VFX and just kind of the whole like we're making movies thing, I think it led to like really interesting concepts that like are so out of left field.
Right.
And I that's the sort of shit I really miss.
Yeah.
So like Cole Bennett, he directed that Mixed Personalities video, and the aesthetic of that video is really weird. And I'm not a huge fan of it because it is just like a lot of like wrapping the camera and then cutting back to this aesthetic world. I wish he used that CGI budget to just make like a cool story or a cool short film. Still same look, same world and everything, but just find a way to like make it like more interesting.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Cole Bennett was, obviously he's inspired a shit ton of people to make music videos. He was one of my biggest inspirations when about 3 years ago I got into music videos again, because, there weren't that many young directors going out and doing it, and I think he inspired me and a lot of other people. It's like, you can just go start doing it right now. Like, it doesn't matter if you're like 20, 19, you can pick up a camera and just go start shooting and start doing it right now. And yeah, if Lyrical Lemonade wasn't a thing, I wonder how much longer it would have taken for me to get inspired to go out and shoot. Because besides him, the only other like young music video directors that were successful I can think of are like Brother, and they're like probably 25, 26 or something now.
Brother's amazing.
They're dope.
I wish they had more name recognition.
They deserve it. They do. Yeah, and we've talked about this a little bit before. Unfortunately, I've seen them tweet and talk about how for certain videos they kind of get paid scraps and shit like that, which is crazy. If you're doing videos for The Weeknd and Travis Scott and Lana Del Rey, I hope you'd be making good money, you know?
Well, that's the thing. Are you aware of the group We Direct Music Videos?
No.
So basically,
clever name.
There's this directing duo named Daniels, and and they directed the movie Swiss Army Man.
Yeah, and they did Turn Down for What?
Yeah. So before that, they were very prominent music video directors. They did some Passion Pit stuff, and they did Turn Down for What by Lil Jon, which is amazing. I think if you go to YouTube right now, it has over a billion views. Seeing a B on YouTube is pretty rare. That's like Taylor Swift shit, and
it's like Gangnam Style.
Only. Yeah. By the way, side note, This Is America right now is at 700 million, so This Is America is verging on being like a B video.
Hell yeah.
Excites me. But
yeah, they deserve it.
Daniels, they explained that when they did the math, they got paid less than $1 an hour to make Turn Down for What, because I think that they got like $1,000 each, and then that's like a multi-$1,000 video with like hours and hours of shooting and editing and blah blah blah. And Hiro Murai, who now directs like Atlanta and just all the Gambino stuff, he's also made amazing videos for other people like St. Vincent.
Did he do This Is America?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he just does like everything. He made Chum for Earl Sweatshirt. He made really good St. Vincent video stuff for the Shins. But he directs like a lot of episodes of Atlanta. Like, to me, he's the upcoming filmmaker to pay attention to.
Hell yeah, okay.
And I think him and Daniels and a number of other music video directors basically started trying to put this sort of abuse education on line where they're basically describing like how like people are being paid for scraps and stuff. And the thing that they outlined is like the film industry has unions. Like every single department there's a camera union, and it's very tight knit, you know. Music, if you and I have talked to our musician friends, we know that like the way the music industry works, it's very backdoor and shit. The music video industry, that's like the melding of these two worlds where like there's no music video like union at all. So like the kind of like earlier we were talking about like, well, how do you get, you know, an adequate budget for a young person you believe in, or how do you get a proper budget from like fucking Travis Scott? Like there's no rules to any of this shit. So a lot of these guys created this group called We Direct Music Videos, and they basically put out their video proposal treatments just online for free so people can learn from them. And they've been holding like in-person meetings to kind of talk about how do we problem solve this stuff. But, I forget what even got me on this tangent. But
no, you're good. Yeah, I think it's definitely something that I hope gets better. You know, the fact that there are so many people out there who, despite that, are still making music videos for a living, you know, it shows me that's possible. I guess my approach to that is, you know, I really want to make my work unique so that, you know, kind of like a Syriac, it's like, if you want this type of video, there's one person you can go to get it. Right. And then with that, it's like, you know, my rate is I take 20% of the budget or whatever, some shit like that. But yeah, I'll figure that out as we go. Right now, I'm relying on other freelance video editing work to pay the bills and shit like that. Because it seems like, you know, you got to get to a pretty high level or just be doing a ton of videos to kind of be making enough doing that. And I don't really want to like dip into commercials to make money. I'll do a few commercials, you know, I'll make some dope ones, but I'm really just passionate about music videos. I just love making visuals for music. Something I would like to do at some point too is do like Rave visuals, because, you know, I like syncing the visuals to the music, and that's what it's all about.
Oh, so you're talking about how like when people are at a rave, there's these giant screens with like crazy projections. Yeah, dude. My friend Andrew in the past used to show me like some insane shit.
They're
because
so dope.
I'm not really into like the EDM world like at all, but like I'll appreciate good art any day. And he was showing me these massive screens, and like the DJ is like on a booth, which is also a screen, so you don't even see him. And like he was showing this shit where like a T-Rex would like burst out of the screen, but not literally. Like it's a visual being displayed, but and like they somehow figured out how to make it look actually 3D, and like it looks like it's like shit like that is insane.
Yeah. I've been to a couple raves, and there were some of the, I wish I recorded more on my phone, but at the same time, I'm happy I just be present and enjoy it while I was there.
Yeah.
There were some of the coolest visuals I've ever seen there. It's like, goddamn. And they really, like I said, go for syncing it to the, like every movement of whatever is like the instruments and the sound.
And that's that's part of why I make those animated visualizers on my channel too, because honestly, like I made one for this singer named Mina. I think she's great. I think she'll wind up being really big.
Hell yeah.
It's like I tried to make the the visualizer like sync with the song really well. So also in theory, if she wanted to go perform that live, like you could just have that playing.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I had a friend and they were a digital culture major, and they were saying how like one of their biggest dreams was to like make concert visuals. And I remember they were like showing me like these kind of complex like 3D programs that their curriculum was having them use. Like having like things be simulated through like fractals, so you just have all these like fractal like mountains forming, and it was all really cool. But then I just remember thinking like, oh well, at the end of the day, it's just shit people are looking at on a screen, so it's like I could make these in After Effects if I wanted to. Like this is a perfectly good tool to make.
Yeah 100%. There's a lot of people that are super dope with the 3D shit. Obviously Gibson Hazard, if you've heard of him.
No,
dude, Gibson Hazard is one of the, in my opinion, one of the greatest on the rise. He's like a prodigy. He's like 24, and he started off doing concert visuals, and within a matter of like 2-3 years shot up to working with Billie Eilish, Drake, Shawn Mendes, Nike commercial.
Oh wow.
Now he directed one of the latest Lil Nas X music videos. He just did a Call of Duty Warzone commercial. He did the fucking visuals for the Grammys and the VMAs, like, and he's like 23, 24. He's insanely talented.
That's amazing. It's so crazy when you hear these guys and they're just this young.
Yeah,
it just makes you. It just really. I'm like just so passionate about the idea that like everybody can be like an entrepreneur or like just like their own person, and like the world definitely still needs like scientists and doctors and shit like that. So for all the people who are doing or are passionate about things that you 100% have to go to school for, like Godspeed, because the world needs you really bad. Yeah. But in terms of like just the millions of people who are like at jobs that they do not give a shit about, and then they come home and they're not even really creative at home, but they see other people being creative and they think, I wish I could be that. I've said before, I think like society kind of puts artists and creativity in general on a pedestal, and people feel like I'm not one of those. Like that's a different type of animal as me. I think it's the same feeling as like when somebody looks at The Rock and they think, I'll never be that muscular. That's crazy. And like I think with creativity, people kind of look at it as like this thing that they have or don't have. But I'm like, God damn, like you're talking about a guy who's probably self-taught off a laptop, and now he's working for like the most major people ever just because like he had the stuff to show for it. Yeah,
like I never thought of myself as a creative person at all. Actually, growing up, I was really good at math and just like, literal stuff, logical stuff. And my sister was the artistic one, my older sister, who she's a really good sketch artist and painter and shit like that. So I always had the idea in my head that I'm not an artsy person, I'm not a creative person. And I guess when I got back into music videos and started getting more into editing, I started to understand the art form of it. And anything that you put a lot of time into, like you really can do it. And with Gibson Hazard, that dude is so crazy. I remember he was making some crazy tour recaps for like Black and Lil Pump, and like they would shoot the concert or whatever, and then all the artists and shit would go to like the after party or whatever, and Gibson would be like on the bus like editing all night.
Yeah, already in Premiere.
And what I admired about him a long time ago was still same thing, but I noticed it a long time ago, was he's always been on the mindset of always getting better, which I think is so important. He's always trying to make his new thing the best thing he's ever made, because when he started really popping off and being successful working with these huge people, there was an interview I read online, like, oh, we're working with all these huge artists, what are you going to do now? And he's like, I'm going to learn After Effects so I can make even better videos. And then it's like, what are you going to do now? I'm going to learn Cinema 4D so I can make even better videos.
That's always my thought. I always want the thing I make to be the new best thing I've ever made.
Right.
I think you should like learn Blender, because Blender is literally well, it's literally a 100% free 3D software. I know you just listed Cinema 4D, but like Blender, do you know who Peter France is? So Peter France, I want to say, is like 23. He was one of the very few people selected to be like an intern at Corridor Digital, and he would do such insanely creative stuff in their videos when they would have him participate in like the editing, that like they offered him a full-time job, and he literally for like maybe a year or so turned it down because it was that important to him to finish film school. And then once he would, come back for his summer internship and then go back to like USC or wherever the fuck. And then now he's finally like a fully fledged Corridor Digital employee, and
nice.
And he was somebody who was watching them back in like middle school or high school and shit. And he is so goddamn good. But one of the things that they kind of joked about is how he was the young guy using Blender, and and like Ren was using either Cinema 4D or
Houdini or something.
Yeah. And fucking the thing about it is like, so he was the first person that really introduced to me how powerful a software it is, because he made this like Spider-Man short film, and in it there are these shots of Spider-Man like fucking swinging through New York City, but like he also has it set in the 60s, and like it looks almost photoreal, and he was in there like just hand animating Spider-Man like going through and shit. Really amazing, and this is a free program.
That's nuts.
And where my appreciation of the software has completely leveled up is there's like traditional animators making like Pixar level looking stuff in Blender now, and again, it's free. One of my favorite examples of this is I found this guy recently named Densle, and he makes Animal Crossing short films by just for people who don't know, if you want to go look up like video game assets for visual effects, like 3D use, they're all on the internet. Somehow people are like ripping them out of the game and throwing them up there.
Nice.
So this guy is using like Animal Crossing assets to then like basically make like Pixar quality Animal Crossing short films, and like his lighting in it, and it looks so fucking good.
Right.
And I just keep thinking like, man, if I had the time to get really good at this, like, because a lot of the visual effects that you and I are currently doing, it's very much so based around like altering the color or maybe the quality or texture of the footage, like we're doing like either motion graphic stuff, or you're coloring the footage in an interesting way, or maybe you're making the eyes bulge, or maybe having like a glow effect. Very 2D flat plane based effects, but like Blender is like a fully fledged 3D program, and it seems to be like pretty consumer friendly, like anybody can learn it. And I'm going a little long now, but it seems so good.
My buddy Matt, OCD Visuals, shouts out Matt, I think started learning Blender a while ago. He's really leveling up with his 3D shit. He's getting nice with it. So I might look into Blender, stuff that has held me back from it before, like I tried getting into cinema. I don't like having to find all the assets from everywhere, and I also don't like modeling stuff from scratch. I don't know, like I'm really inspired by people that are really good with 3D, like Gibson Hazard and have you heard of Strip Mall? I think it's two guys. They're hella dope. They do really dope 3D shit. As well. They're leveling up like crazy too. And then this guy, I think I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong probably. It's like Quentin Duranzier, something like that. Also fucking crazy abstract 3D dude. Another guy named Nick Visuals, who does a bunch of stuff related to music videos. He just did some Adult Swim shit.
Well, even if you just like hire people and you don't learn it yourself, but like,
exactly.
And you know, another thing that's cool about Peter is he's wound up getting hired by Mike Diva.
I love Mike Diva.
So Peter, who's like our age, he's done visual effects for like Adult Swim and The Lonely Island and Run the Jewels via Mike Diva, who's been getting hired for this shit. So it's just so cool to see like these YouTube guys like just be getting like legit jobs.
Right.
Have you heard of this guy Ari Fararooy?
I love this dude. I follow him.
Yeah,
he makes fantastic. Yeah, I've seen this.
I'll put what we're looking at on screen later.
He makes fantastic concept videos. Ari Fararooy, or however you say his name, is awesome.
Yeah, no, that guy's so good.
He makes very dope conceptual videos, experimental, inventive videos, and he's just a really dope dude. Like, he often will post his full process and like breakdowns and storyboards on his story, like after something comes out. He doesn't make a post, so I'll screenshot all of his stories. But he's like so transparent of like, we got this gig with like Honda or whatever 9 months ago, and then we storyboarded this, and we wanted to do this 3D thing, and then it changed to this, and then here's shoot day, and like they show the whole thing, and it's like so cool to see that insight. Just being totally transparent of the process. I think excuse me, I think the direction I've as of now I kind of want to go in. I don't really want to do like the channel as of now. Maybe I'll go back to that, like my own music video channel. I just want to have my own production company and kind of work on like one or two things at a time and really focus on making the highest quality thing possible, because I think there's a certain freedom to that, to being able to do something here, pick up something here, you know.
Well, I was going to ask, because I noticed on Domino Effect you hadn't really uploaded in like a year. So, and I was wondering if that was just because the artists you were working with wanted the video on their page and not on yours.
So there was the pandemic, and I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life as well in 2020, so I kind of detached from music videos for a while, kind of took a break. And then as I started getting ready to come back, I reevaluated what was most important to me. And like I said earlier, the thing I always come back to is the number one thing I really care about is I just want to make some of the hardest videos of all time. I don't really care about much else. So I feel like for my goals, what's best for me right now is to stick to a very quality over quantity approach, you know, like 6 to 8 of my best videos a year rather than 20 to 25. And by going off the channel for now, it enables me to work with bigger artists faster, because I think if you want to grow the channel, you have to do some of that. We'll make a video for cheaper if it goes on the channel, or like you have to stick to smaller artists until you get to...
Is there any way you could do both? I mean, what if you were, you know, leveraging to work with bigger artists and you just don't even mention to them that you have a channel because you're trying to get the job, but then if you're working with like some of the usual people, like the main reason I'm asking this is because like with me, like running mine, I enjoy having a consolidated place for everything I do. But then at the same time, I also understand it's a lot easier to get people to care about a brand than a person.
Right.
So in my head, building up Tall Skeleton is like future leverage for me, where basically like maybe it'll be hard for people to remember the name Zane Berry, but it'll be easier to remember Tall Skeleton, you know? So I look at these guys, whether or not it's Lyrical Lemonade or Illegal Civilization, where they were able to like, you know, build up their baby and like get stronger and stronger. And then now maybe they can use that as like leverage to a movie studio of like, look at how many people are signing up to make the stuff, to watch the stuff I like. So I'm just wondering if like you could do both. Or
see, another thing for me is I'm not really a person that loves to manage the social media stuff. I don't really also want to spend too much time like always being on the lookout for up and coming artists. We should get them on the channel to get more exposure, or like cultivating a certain style of music. I think if you go the channel route and you want to grow the channel, you have to make decisions to grow the channel. And if there's, like I said, if there's one thing I want to prioritize, is just to make the best videos and work with the biggest artists. So I feel like for this year, at least, I'm seeing how it goes off the channel. Because what I've came to is, if after this year, if after next year, I'm like, you know what, going back on the channel is the way to go. I don't think that's too much of a setback because I'll still have gotten much better at making videos and I'll know a lot more stuff. So I don't think it would be a big setback if I went back that direction. But as of now, I like the idea of just project to project, quality over quantity.
I completely get the philosophy of what you're saying. I don't know if that means you have to like not post them there still though. I guess just because like with me, for instance, like I'm the same way. Like I've been trying to, make like 6 or 8 really good ones this year rather than like, I'm not the type to be on the lookout thinking like, oh, this person's getting really big, let's grab them. I really just try to reach out to people who I personally think are really good and I believe in them, then spend as much time as I need to on it, making it good, And to me, it's kind of nice to have like, again, like a channel or a place where I'm able to just, kind of pile up all the things I do.
For sure.
Even if there's really long gaps in between, you know what I mean? Like I've gone really long gaps without getting a video out just because the one I'm working on just needed more love than the next one, in terms of work. But I don't, and I guess like I'm the same way where I don't really love the whole social media thing and thinking like a marketing person and like making these like business decisions to like grow the channel. But like, I mean, maybe this is naive of me, but I've just always liked to think that like if the product is good enough, people will come.
I agree with that.
So I've been growing my channel pretty passively. Like I make my social media posts. I try to let people know like, hey, I have a new thing and whatnot. But I don't spend hardly any of my time thinking as like this marketing person in terms of the next musician to work with or my next social media campaign or here's my subscriber projections for the next quarter,
Right. Yeah, I think I just had a thought. I just lost it.
And we are different people again. So like, you're going to wind up doing stuff differently than me. I guess just to better understand. So like if you were to direct a music video tomorrow, and it's somebody who maybe wouldn't even care if it was on Domino Effect, would you like right now prefer that it's not? Because to you, like it just doesn't matter to you, or?
I haven't really thought about that. Like I kind of just decided that I'm gonna try going off the channel for a little bit. I think one of the bigger things is I think you can work with bigger artists quicker. I think once you get to the level where you have a lot of subscribers, it turns into the thing where now people want to be on because now they get exposure. But I think it's a long road to get there. It's a long road of doing freebies to build up to that point. And I think I would rather just have the ability to jump up to working with bigger artists faster, get the credibility faster. Because I really believe if I went this way and was able to jump up to working with bigger artists faster and then decided, you know what, the channel is the way to go. Now I have the credibility. Now I'm much better at making videos and I can start fresh at a much higher level than
so basically to you right now, the nature of like where and how something is posted is like just kind of arbitrary to you, and what you're more concerned with is making really good stuff and having a reputation for making really good stuff.
Yeah, again, I'm really inspired by Gibson Hazard, not just the videos themselves, but the way he posts, because there's a lot of people out there kind of like this, but he's a great example where he'll come out with something incredible and then disappear for 2, 3, 4 months. You won't hear, he's not on social media at all. You won't see him for 2, 3, 4 months. Out of nowhere, he'll come out again with something even better somehow. Disappear for 2, 3 months, come out with something even better. I like that approach. Like, I don't want to be out and always doing stuff.
Having a constant online presence.
Yeah, I'm really just about like the craft and like the mastery. So I want to go into my cave and get really deep into like some new technique and make a crazy video, present it. Okay, go back in my cave for 3 months and learn something new and then come out, present it.
I'm the same way. I'm very inspired by like how Donald Glover and Frank Ocean and a lot of these guys just like, they refuse to really, or even Gerard Carmichael and Bo Burnham, like they all kind of, they're like, no, I'm not going to be this, I'm just going to live my life and make stuff really good, and I'm not going to necessarily participate in this,
Kendrick
game of
too.
social media and shit. Yeah, Kendrick
He's been gone for 4 years.
And Kanye when he feels like it.
Yeah.
I think the counter argument to that philosophy, because I very much so admire those people and want to be like those people, is they get to do that because they've earned it through proven success and through having a career. And like, and if you look at those guys when they were younger, like Donald Glover was really active on Twitter when he was younger. There's you know, some weird exceptions where somebody like Frank, he's been aloof since his first mixtape, but he also had, you know, the good fortune of getting like Beyonce writing gigs when he was 17, you know?
Right.
So sometimes I think, like, as much as I want to be that way, like, am I shooting myself in the foot? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I only recently started uploading promotional videos to TikTok because I just felt like an idiot for not doing it sooner. And I fucking hate TikTok. But I was like, I might as well throw up 10 seconds saying that something came out in case it gets like one person.
The other thing for me about the like kind of posting and disappearing thing is I feel like there's a freedom that comes with that, you know?
I agree completely.
Versus if you're committed to growing a channel, you have to stay committed to certain things, whether it's the genre of music you're doing or at least uploading once or twice a month and stuff like that. And just knowing me, I really love having that extra flexibility if I want to disappear for a few months and then do something different. If I want to do a commercial or do a rave visual.
Well, I guess, so you're describing growing a channel as one pursuit, you know, and maybe right now you're sort of alternatively describing like growing yourself and your personal skills and your personal career development through quality of work and, you know, reputation of quality. To me, though, that's still, you know, like one scenario is growing a channel and the other situation is growing yourself, you know? And I hear you saying, like, you want to work with, like, bigger and better artists. So I guess, like, in your mind, because, you know, you and I, we're both young, we're both figuring this sort of thing out. Like, do you get there by making really good stuff and then sending emails out to bigger people and like hoping that they like it? Like, because for me, like, again, not to like beat a dead horse, like the one thing I like about having a channel is not that I'm trying to like grow a brand per se, but I just have this consolidated place where everything I've made lives. So if I talk to anyone, big or small, and they say, what do you do? And can I look at it? I can just send them that one link and point to it and be like, here's everything.
That's still how like my Instagram will be, for example. Like I keep my posts pretty limited. It's pretty much just the videos themselves. So it's pretty much my portfolio right there. You can just watch. And I think, you know, I see more people doing this now. When they post their music videos, they'll post like 59 seconds. I think that's the way to go because a lot of people don't want to click the link and watch the full video. So it's like put a good chunk of the video there so they could get a good taste of it. But yeah, my Instagram will be like my portfolio. I just had something else based on, what were you just saying?
I was basically just talking about the dichotomy of growing a brand versus yourself and how do you get people to want to hire you.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good approach. I think there's never anything wrong with either emailing or DMing people that are like about your level or maybe a little higher than you and saying, I fuck with your stuff, like would love to work, and then maybe like even doing it for less money just to establish that connection. I think there's nothing wrong with it. That's good. But I think, again, what do I know? Because I'm 22 and haven't made it by any means. But I would think that making it is when your body of work is consistently quality and people start seeing your quality work pop up in more than one place. It's not just like you made that one crazy video. It's like, okay, this guy's everywhere. Like they did this cool video, this cool video, this cool video.
So like in other words, it's not like people need to know or find your channel that's popping off. It's more like just, you know, they go on social media and they see something that you're attached to floating around because it's that good. Or
it could be as simple as, because this is how I found some directors. It could be as simple as you see one really good video, let's say like Snot, for example. Not Snotty, but like Snot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The one who's worked with Lyrical Lemonade.
With the cash symbol Snot.
Yeah, with the hoodie.
Yeah.
Like Snot posts like a really cool video, like holy shit, who made this video? And he tagged it on Instagram. You go to their page and look through, and every other video on their page is also dope. And that's happened with me. There was a director, Amontá Jones, that Snot has worked with, and that's how I found him. He's hella dope.
Okay, so it sounds like you'll still for sure be a little bit reliant to the modern technology system of like getting work out and getting people to pay attention to your work. But for you, instead of growing an external brand, it's just as simple as just having like a really good social media filled with really good work.
It's pretty much just my portfolio exists on Instagram rather than YouTube.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'll still have a playlist on YouTube of here's my videos I've directed, but I think Instagram would be the easiest place to see the portfolio and website, make my website.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess because like you're right now really making me like reverse engineer why I think the way I do about how I've decided to do things. And I think like in my head it's almost like I value higher numbers on YouTube more than I value higher numbers on Instagram.
Oh yeah, the dream has always been to have a big YouTube channel. That's been my dream since I was like 8, you know. And the benefit of doing what you're doing, the channel, is you own your content. I think that's so huge. As Lyrical Lemonade does that. I think you should own your own content. You know, you hear nightmare stories of working with labels and like they have stuff in the contract where like if they want to take the video down, they can take it down and shit like that. Yeah. It's like, where possible, you should always own your own content. Yeah,
I can't really talk about specifics, but like I'm in the middle of doing some sort of video thing where I don't know if I'll ever be able to display it in a way that I want to, and I'm really trying to be like, can we make sure that I can at the very least post like a highlights of this on YouTube or behind the scenes, like something. I don't want this to only exist over there.
Right.
And I mean, hell, look at Taylor Swift. She just re-recorded every album she's ever made.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Because fucking Scooter Braun owns all of her recordings. That's so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, both for musicians and for music video directors, there's a lot of bullshit that labels do.
Yeah.
And again, huge hats off to Lyrical Lemonade, because they're one of the most powerful forces, I think, that's sort of combating that as far as empowering the independent artists and the do-it-yourself thing and just avoiding all the bullshit that labels do.
You know what I saw recently? There was a Chance the Rapper music video that came out recently, and it's directed by Cole Bennett, and it even has the Lyrical Lemonade icon in the corner, but it's uploaded to Chance's channel and not Cole Bennett's. And all I could it's funny that they have the same last name actually, Chance Bennett and Cole Bennett. But, all I could think was, one, why was that so important to Chance, and two, how much more did he have to pay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's tweeted about how labels give him a lot of trouble and stuff. Do you know that he turned down offers from all of them?
Yeah, well, Cole, I think it was in his TED Talk, Cole said that he was getting offered, like, I want to say it was like a Migos video or something like that, and he said, no, it has to be on the channel, and then he called him back. Like 5 minutes later,
he's like, what am I doing?
He's like, yeah, no, I'm going to direct that video. And they're like, yeah, man, that's what we thought.
Yeah.
We're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, he's like, what am I doing? I just turned down the Migos.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was offered like 20-30 million by labels to buy out Lyrical Lemonade, and he turned it down, which
because they want to turn it into a TikTok.
They want to
turn it into a TikTok machine.
They would not treat it right. They would ruin it. It would not be what it is today. Yeah.
I don't know.
Their subs? Yeah. They're like 60 something, okay. 60K.
Yeah, that's
right.
You know what labels are.
Oh yeah.
God damn.
Right. Yeah, dude, it's tough. Oh yeah, there's so much bullshit in the industry, but the bright side of it is that we have Lyrical Lemonade, we have Overcast, we have these people that are doing, more of the independent artist shit, and we're bringing in some better practices, stuff that's better for the artist, better for the industry.
Yeah,
we're just combating the stereotypical shitty corporate.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the business interfering with the creative is something that's going to happen regardless. There's a balance.
See, when I was first deciding to make Tall Skeleton, my original business model in my head was, I'm going to do what Lyrical Lemonade does, but in my head I was like, I'm going to try to take more of like a filmmaker, like Hiro Murai approach to these videos, and I quickly realized, like you're describing, I can't do 20 to 25 music videos a year. I can at most do like 3 to 6 to 8 if I want to make them like this good.
Yeah.
Not to say that
I
those
think
other
it's so
videos,
worth it.
and not to say that those other videos aren't good. It's just, you know, they're very much.
If you're doing that many, you can't do something totally new each time. If you're doing a lot, you have to rely on stuff that you already know.
Because you see Lyrical Lemonade like recycle effects or concepts constantly, and you know, so that's where me doing like visualizers and podcasts and stuff like that kind of plugs in the gaps in between the music videos. And you know, my dream would be to where like I'm like a legit filmmaker and I'm like filling this channel out with like short films and stuff like that. I'm finishing one up right now for the first time in forever, but I think that's where I was like, what if I took like the concept of Lyrical Lemonade, but I made it more like a streaming service.
More like a Netflix.
Where you can go to different categories and it's not just music videos.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's weird because my original business pitch to this was I'm one of those Lyrical Lemonade type channels, but now when you go to it, it's like, you know, minority.
Good.
Those music videos.
It should be centered around your passions and your tastes.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like every time I put something out, whether or not it's a music video or a short film or a video essay, I'm like making the case that this channel makes this, you know?
Right.
Because for instance, like I think of myself and this channel as like a music video channel, but other people might not because they see all the other shit I do and they're like, is that a side feature or whatever?
Right.
So that's the little bit of the conflicting identity thing of like wondering like what other people perceive what I'm doing as, you know? So anytime I put something out, I'm like, I feel like I'm remaking the case. Like I do this too.
Yeah, for sure. If you're cool with it, I want to keep going, but I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. We're back. This episode's filled with breaks, but that's okay. I think we were just talking about Tall Skeleton and just the nature of like making a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to say is I feel like it's so worth it to do the quality over quantity thing because it only takes 1, 2, 3 really good videos to get noticed, to like establish yourself. Like if you see one really cool video from someone, go to their page and just see 1 or 2 more, it's like, okay, they know what they're doing. Like they're legit.
Yeah. I'm so excited for the next handful of music videos I'm going to put out because Elijah and I have been working on several simultaneously for like months now, and Paradiddle just happens to be like the first one that came out. Yeah. But there's some more that are going to come that I'm so excited about, and there's some other ones with some other musicians, and I'm just really excited because last year the only one I put out that I directed was Lonely Nut for Lonely God and Nut. Yeah. And that one's really fun, but I remember I was making my little like end of the year wrap up, like going over the analytics of all the videos I made, and when I went to music videos it was like 1. And now this year I'm already on track to have like 5 or 6, and I'm just like, oh man, that'll be great.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Good shit. I wanted to ask you about Smash.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Smash.
Because
well, fucking Private Spicy just walked through. Yeah. He's the Smash god. I don't know if he's coming back.
Yeah, dude. Like, my friends and I played a good amount of Ultimate. I see you posting some videos. You're doing some combos and shit like that.
Well, okay, so fucking Mark, Private Spicy, who's been on here, he runs a really good Smash Bros channel where he makes like just hype as fuck montages of the crazy stuff he's doing. We like play pretty much every day, you know, and just naturally, like, I was good, but like not, you know, to that degree. Playing with somebody that good just routinely, I think, just has inherently made me a lot better, you know. And again, like I was saying earlier about VFX being a hobby, I just like having little hobbies.
For sure.
And I grew up as a big Nintendo kid, so yeah, it's been fun making these montages of like combos and stuff. But dude, the Smash community, they're like mean. They'll get in the comments and be like, you suck and this version of the game sucks.
The community kind of sucks, right? and then unfortunately there were some fucking predators in the fucking Smash scene. Bunch of sweaty gamers. Shit sucks, bro. But yeah, dude, like, I'm by no means like great. Like I would say I'm like better than average just because like I play with guys who are pretty good, but I'm not like tournament good.
Do you want to play some games before you leave?
Sure, I'll play a couple.
Cool.
Yeah.
If I record them, I'll throw it in the edit.
We'll see if I'm trash or not.
I'll stitch the game we played to the end.
Yeah. You're either seeing me getting my ass kicked or proving that I can hold my ground.
Yeah. Who do you play as?
I main Yoshi and Bowser.
Oh, dude, do you know Nick Johnson?
Maybe he's going to ASU.
Okay, so we have a filmmaking buddy, Nick Johnson. He's an editor. Oh, by the way, he just uploaded a GoFundMe for a feature film that they're making. So if you want to help a local person make a whole ass feature film, it's right here. Nick, he also mains Bowser and Yoshi.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he was just the leader of a Smash League tournament that me and Mark were in for the last number of months. It was really fun.
Yeah, my friend PJ, shouts out PJ. His Smash tag is Jammers, and like a year or two ago, he hosted a tournament for like his birthday, I think, and called it Jamapalooza, and we had like maybe a 32 person bracket. I made it past the first like 1 or 2 rounds, which felt so good just to like play in a tournament and beat a couple people. And then I went up against this person whose tag was Drug Girl, and I was like, holy shit. And she kicked my ass. I was like, you know what? If there's someone I'm going to lose to, Drug Girl's a good person to lose to. She was legit.
Dude, when you go online, people have crazy names.
Yeah,
it's really funny. Dude, did you play Smash for Wii U?
Not actually. Yeah, I played a little bit of that. The online was terrible, per usual in Nintendo games.
There was a stage in Smash for Wii U that they haven't brought into Ultimate, and I think it was just called like Miiverse or something like that. It's basically standard Battlefield, but the difference is in the background, messages pop and drawings pop up based on which characters you're playing, and they're there because other players submit them to Nintendo. Their filtration process for this was like 0%.
Yeah, I bet.
So if you had a game where you were playing Wario and the other person was playing like Bayonetta or something, you would probably just start to get these drawings in the background of just the most grotesque shit you can possibly imagine.
That's pretty good.
You know what I mean? And like it's just still like that. And like they never.
That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, it blows my mind. We were talking about this the other day, my friends and I, like how there was good online console games a long time ago, like as far back as I can remember. It's like Xbox Live and PSN when it was like the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. There was good online. You can voice chat with friends and shit like that and play games without lag. And for some reason, here we are in 2021 and Nintendo still has notoriously terrible online games, besides maybe a couple.
Nintendo is the paradox of being like the pioneer of so much. Every video game company has so much to thank for them. They're so creative. They have such good characters and worlds, and then their hardware is dog shit, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I think my friend Josh said this, shout out Josh. I think he said Nintendo like makes like incredibly good games that somehow will always have like one major flaw, you know? Like they always have one significant that's like why is it like this?
See, I grew up as like a Nintendo only household. The only non-Nintendo thing we owned was a PlayStation 1, which we only used to play Spyro, which it basically feels like a Nintendo game.
Oh yeah.
And in every way. And so the point is I didn't grow up playing online shit at all. Like honestly, I only started playing online video games when I got into PC Overwatch back in like 2018, and then I didn't start playing Smash Online until last year. I literally have gone since 2018 when Smash Ultimate came out. If I was ever playing Smash by myself casually for fun, I was just going up against like level 9 CPUs. And now that I'm actually going online and fighting people, I'm like, oh, this is way better. It's almost as if I didn't even have this game this whole time. I just had to like wait for friends to come over to have fun with it.
Right, people are so much more unpredictable and different than the computers.
I think the death of couch play video games is just the worst though, because now everything is so online centric that they're like, that major video games are literally like missing features that I look at as like the most basic of features. Like PlayStation Plus gave me Call of Duty for free and I wanted to play it with my roommate and he was like, I don't think we can. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like we can't play each other? Because like back, you know, if you had Halo, you and your buddy would grab a controller, you would load into Blood Gulch and shoot at each other for a while. And now there's like main staple games where you can't even do that.
It's ridiculous.
It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Even with Smash, when you go on the click play, you can do doubles. But if you open a battle arena, which is kind of the same shit, there's just like some differences with how it works and how you invite people in and this and that. You can't have two people in there on the same console. So sometimes me and Mark want to like play in a battle arena with one of his friends, and he and I have to be in separate rooms because for some reason quick play you can do 2-player, but battle arenas you can't. And I'm just like, yo, this is the like how can you not solve this?
Yeah, how are we here in 2021 and you have these like simple ass,
so ridiculous.
Yeah, that shit sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of Nintendo too. The very first console game I ever had, we got a GameCube that came with Super Mario Sunshine.
It's my favorite game.
Still one of my favorite games ever. So nostalgic, so good. So many good worlds, so many good levels. I love Flood and the whole dynamic that brings. I got into watching, not playing, but watching Sunshine speedruns a while ago.
Yeah, speedruns. Can you come a little bit closer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario Sunshine speedrunners in general, but like it's funny like watching a game that I grew up with, you know, and like I
beat an hour 10 minutes.
Yeah, to be honest, like I never beat Sunshine my entire childhood. The final level was too hard, and then I think like once as an adult, like I actually did it. So like there.
Are you talking about the Bowser fight or the lava volcano getting to the Bowser fight?
Literally that.
Yeah.
Literally
getting to it, I think, is harder than fighting him itself. Yeah, controlling that boat through the lava.
Oh my god, it's the fucking...
I never beat any of the Zelda games I played growing up. I played Wind Waker and Twilight Princess and didn't beat either.
Yeah, my first Zelda was Breath of the Wild because all the times I tried playing Zelda as a kid, I couldn't even figure out how to like...
It's hard for a kid's game.
I couldn't figure out how to leave the town.
Yeah, okay, well my problem though, I was just being a dumb little kid.
Yeah,
like,
not reading.
Yeah, it's like if it wasn't an attacking item, I didn't give a shit about it. You know what I mean? So it's like if it's a map, like I'm not going to read that. And then going back to it and playing it again as an adult, and I'm like actually reading the text boxes and looking at the map, I'm like, it's crazy how this whole game makes sense when you pay attention.
Mark introduced me to like competitive Pokemon, and now I understand that people play Pokemon in this way where they're hyper aware of like, I need to get a Pokemon that has this level of stats because that means the stat ceiling is higher and I can get them to have crazy good attack, and owning this Pokemon is a waste of time because their stats are bad and I'm only going to have these moves, blah, blah, blah. When I was a kid playing Pokemon, I played the shit out of Pokemon. I was keeping moves only if they were attack moves. Like my Pokemon never had any defense, anything, because I was like, that's not fun. And if they had cool animations, you know, so like it's like, hell yeah, my Blaziken is keeping Blaze Kick. I don't know if that's considered good or bad, but like there's probably something better to have. But yeah, like
so, it's like, why would I want anything but like Flamethrower or Hyper Beam?
Yeah, you know what I mean? I think you and I are in that intermediate level of video game players where we care more than the average person and we know a lot of shit,
but we're not like, going to tournaments and winning them.
we don't know like the meta of like what you have to do to be incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
Beyond words.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I've had the dream when I was in middle school of being a pro gamer, as a lot of us did. Have you ever played StarCraft?
No.
By Blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 6th grade I played a lot of that, and it's one of those where it's like the leagues.
Oh, you know what? I have played StarCraft like once or twice, and my friend who explained it to me made it very confusing, and I was just kind of mashing when I got in there.
Yeah.
And the whole overhead miniature angle look of like MOBAs and stuff, I cannot handle those types of games. Like League of Legends is not for me.
Yeah, well, League is just a toxic ass terrible game that you shouldn't play anyway. But yeah,
it's so popular though.
Yeah, StarCraft is an RTS. It's like hyper competitive. And I'm just really into like climbing the ranks. So it's like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, grandmaster.
I remember they were Andrew Yang was like an actual gamer, and they were gonna have him play StarCraft to raise money for his presidential campaign. And I think they wound up not doing it because that exact same week, like Blizzard came out in some weird support of like the CCP over Hong Kong or some shit.
Oh.
I don't remember, but there was some like Hong Kong political associations with Blizzard, and I remember they're like, Yang, don't play StarCraft.
Yeah, damn, that's tough.
I just love the idea of having a gamer president.
Yeah, literally. We'll have that one day.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll have that one
yeah.
day. We'll have a president who was previously a successful streamer. Probably still is a streamer.
Yeah. Well, Obama, like, everybody was like, he plays basketball, and Bill Clinton, they were like, he plays saxophone, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want the guy who's like...
Yeah, fucking CSGO pro.
I remember the day after Yang dropped out, there was some dude who went up to him, and they were like, hey, can you say that Bowser mains are carried?
All Bowser players are carried.
You heard it here.
And he did it, so there's just this video of Andrew Yang saying Bowsers are carried.
Wow, that's really
And I'm
good.
like, man, if he actually was like elected president, and then like you had a friend who was playing Bowser, you're like, hey man, here's the president saying
Dude,
Bowser
yeah.
is carried.
Dude, being a successful streamer, it's the dream, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, that's not really what I want to do anymore, but...
Yeah, but for a lot of
For
people.
a lot of people, for sure. Like, have you heard of Soda Poppin'?
No.
He's a dude who's still big. He's one of the most successful streamers ever. Like, I used to play World of Warcraft, and he was like a really big WoW player. Just like a loud, rambunctious guy, and just makes 6 figures, maybe 7 figures off of subs and donations. Like, you can watch a stream, people are just constant, because it's like a $3 minimum for your message to pop up. People constantly throwing in $3, people constantly throwing in $5 subs.
Yeah, it's those microtransactions where people are like, fuck it.
You can watch them make thousands of dollars in just a couple hours.
Well, do you know who Code Miko is? I am blown away by her. Do you know about VTubers? Okay, so it's like for virtual YouTubers, but it's kind of more of a streaming phenomenon. So this woman is like the most extreme version of this. So because of that, she's kind of the only one I'm like even interested in now. But basically, like, people are making like virtual avatars, and they're being streamers, but like via this character and not their real self. So
Wow.
it's like the closest thing I think we have to having like Ready Player One-esque celebrities. So Code Miko, she in real life, she's this woman who she's like clearly like an engineer or whatever, and she's using like a mocap suit to basically control this virtual avatar that she's created. But what's insane about it is, so like her character Miko, you know, she has her own personality traits, her own lore. So people who watch her like her and the real version of her as two separate people.
That's awesome.
And she breaks the fourth wall and shit occasionally, but when she's doing the Miko videos, she tries not to. So she even refers to her real self as a different person.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is she conducts interviews with like Pokimane or Ethan Klein, Michael Reeves, like just a number of other internet
By
people.
proxy.
Yeah. She does it as this person. So what's crazy is the angle she does when she's showing the other person, instead of just cutting, you know, to their Zoom feed, because, you know, it's all been through like Zoom and shit, to like enhance the immersion, she cuts to a camera angle from behind her desk. So you see her in a chair. You see her in a chair, her whole desk, her, you know, virtual, and then you see a TV, and then on the TV is the video feed of the person she's interviewing. So it's like full immersion, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is somehow this, you know, virtual room that she's in, you know, it could just be a background. But this engineer, she's developed an entire like game engine that it exists in, so she can have the character get up from the desk and start running around, and it changes to like,
awesome.
you know, like a Fortnite like third person perspective view where you're watching her like run around.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening is she's like flipping something, and then she's able to control the character with like a gaming controller
Yeah.
or something instead of, you know, with her body. But
Yeah.
like. The point is like, yeah, in terms of like the possibilities of what people can do with like Twitch and streaming and virtual reality,
Dude.
like all this shit is so, I'm barely trying to understand YouTube,
Right.
you know?
Are you into like kind of experimental electronic music at all?
Well, so I really like, you know, 100 Gex, JPEG Mafia,
Flying Lotus?
Injury Reserve, Flying Lotus, and, you know, and even like Tech Club and Lil Cordy, like they're definitely on that sort of a vibe. But
Have you ever heard of Ash Kusha?
no.
Okay, he's I believe he's Iranian. I hope I didn't get that wrong. He's a mega talented dude. Definitely will send you a couple of his albums. Hella experimental, like otherworldly. and he's a genius. His music is so otherworldly and so good. Like otherworldly, yet still somehow rooted in certain like principles of music that I don't understand that makes it palatable. But I bring him up because he has worked on this AI called Yona or Yona 1.1 or whatever, and this AI is like working on music and shit like that, and it's just absolutely crazy.
All this shit scares me so much.
Yeah.
Because like when I listen to experts like really talk about it and just the implications of all this stuff, I'm like, oh, we need so much artificial intelligence regulation.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have like basically none.
Yeah.
Because like that was one of the things like Yang talked about a lot when he was running for president, and he was saying how like, you know, when he was friends with some of these like technology based like company people, he claims that some of them would literally say to him like, we want regulations so you can stop us, because if our competitor starts doing some crazy shit, we gotta do it too. So we can keep up.
Didn't before he died Stephen Hawking sign off on something, and like Elon signed off of it, that it's like, please be careful with like AI and shit. I heard something. I can't confirm that. What do I know? But I heard like Stephen Hawking was like, please be mega careful with this. And it's like, if those guys are saying be careful, please be careful.
Well,
like,
have you ever listened to any of the like Elon Musk, like Joe Rogan interviews? Like they talk
of it.
They talk a bit about like AI and stuff, and Elon is like describing this really bleak shit, but really calmly. And Joe is just kind of like, your whole vibe right now is a little interesting. And he's just like, well, he's like, I used to be really afraid and really scared of it, but then I realized there's nothing I can do. And he's like, oh, so you're just like, you gave up hope, basically. And he was like, Elon claims that I actually forgot about this until right now. I remember in that podcast, he actually claimed he somehow like had a meeting with like all 50 governors and like Congress and shit, which also looking back, that's honestly such a, like, when did that happen? Is there any record of it? Like, that's kind of insane that anyone would be able to do that, you know? But he basically said that it was for the effort of encouraging like AI regulations and standards and things like that.
Oh yeah, we've all seen enough movies and just the have you seen Westworld?
Most.
I've only seen the first season.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's like that thing. Like if AI has the ability to tap into increasing its own stats, basically, like it's like we're fucked. Like,
and it does.
Yeah. So it's a scary thing.
There's like so many we're fucked things happening right now simultaneously. Like I'm like, dude, like fucking there's this one woman who's like a doctor, and she's talking about how like there's plastics in all of us, and basically it's making us like infertile, and that her estimate is that nobody will be able to have babies ever again by 2045.
Dude, we don't know what's killing us. We don't know what the long-term effects of sleeping next to your cell phone every night are and shit like that. You know, we won't know until we're the rats that when we turn 60, 70, 80, we'll start to find out what happened to us.
This woman was talking about how basically like since the 1950s, that's like when the plastic craze like really exploded. Yeah. And like we just started like plasticking like everything, and you know we're feeding babies through like, you know, those soft bendable plastic tubes. And basically like they are able to take measurements in both animals and humans, because we're using plastic on everything, even like when we're like milking cows with those fucking things. And basically they're finding these things in us called phthalates, and basically they're finding all of these correlations of infertility, like genital development differences, fucking sperm count, testosterone, and basically they're saying that like our fertility has been going down 1% every year, and basically like and she was saying, and it's like, I guess like passed down to the people, to like your kids and shit, and it was just so like there's, and then like climate change, just like all those different things, like there's so many things where I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit to worry about. But on the bright side of like the internet and shit like that, I think about how just the amount of information that you and I process in a day has to be exponential compared to like 50, 100 years ago. Oh, yeah. Because how many times do you Google something in a day and instantly learn it, watch a crash course on YouTube? Yeah. Like I feel like our brains process so much information on a day-to-day basis now compared to before. So with that, I would only imagine that in a lifetime, we're going through more information, processing, condensing more information, and hopefully like in that sense, like progressing at a faster rate.
Well, we certainly have all the information. I think the problem is if we don't have like a lot of people actually getting in the guts of like using it to solve these problems, and a lot of that.
Our problem is because you have people in tough situations where like maybe books are censored and they can't get their hands on anything, but they read every book they can get their hands on. It's like 10 books. Our problem is the opposite. We have too much information everywhere, and we have to be selective about.
Well, we also have like the red tape of having like politicians and stuff who are choosing which issues are like sexier to talk about to get their voters and this and that. Right. So like maybe you do have somebody like this plastic doctor or Elon or whoever like advocating to the people in charge who really determine how we decide to like regulate and change this stuff, and they just don't really care because they have more interest in like keeping their seat in Congress.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
It's so bad, dude. So yeah, like I'm with you that like we definitely are processing way more information, and like people can learn skills faster than in the past, but it's just whether or not we're like directing that energy in like a useful, productive way.
I guess I just try and be optimistic about stuff like that. And
I should say like I think of myself very much so as an optimist. I just think that like it's important to be an optimist and
realist,
and a realist and a pragmatic person. So like I have a lot of like we're doomed thoughts, but my second thought is always like what can we do about it?
Exactly. Yeah, I've definitely gone through the like there's so many we're doomed cases. But there's also the possibilities of we make it, and if we treat it as if we're going to make it and do the things we can do to do it, then we're at least giving our best effort we can to make that happen.
Yeah, I think it is always important with like any situation to think like, okay, well, what now? Like, what can I do about this? How can I make better of this?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think I really dislike the idea that we're kind of fostering a generation of young people who are like extremely nihilist and fuck it and this and that. Because for instance, something I've been seeing recently is like I've been seeing more like liberal and progressive leaning people on the internet say stuff like 90% of all the pollution in the ocean is fishing nets, and most of the climate change in the world is due to like 4 companies, blah, 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 which is completely true, and that's really bad, and we need to fix that 100%. But when most of the time when I see those like little facts being used, it's usually as a way of like dismissing their own responsibility. They're like, why do I need to recycle when it's these people's faults? And I'm like, oh, well, don't make it like net worse though.
I think bringing people's attention to that is a good thing, but when it's just repeated over and over again on like Twitter, it's like, is anybody actually making a positive difference? Like, are we organizing efforts to change it for the better? Because if not, we're just holding this negative in front of our heads and torturing ourselves with it and not doing anything to fix it.
Like when you see like 5 people on your feed share the same awareness post, and I'm like, did we all just like confirm something with each other but not actually like try to do anything about it?
Right.
Yeah, that sort of stuff worries me. Like I love that there's definitely a sense that young people are a lot more concerned in the past about like injustice and wanting things to be right, but then like I want that to then transform into like optimism and positive action rather than just nihilism and we're fucked and there's nothing that can be done about this.
I went through my like nihilist phase probably like senior year of high school when I was like nothing matters, we're all gonna die, the world's fucked, and all that, we don't matter in the universe, all the nihilistic shit. And that was one of the most unhappy parts of my life, and it was the nihilism along with I had felt like I had like a happy and fortunate childhood, so I felt like, all of the happiness of my life was in the past, and so there's no place for me in the future.
Yeah.
And I just got over the nihilistic thing. It's like, you know what, fuck that. Like, you should give a shit about things. You should try and make things better, and you should look at the positive.
Well, I always think about that line in the movie Her where he says, sometimes I feel like I felt everything I'm ever going to feel, and I'm just going to feel smaller versions of it from now on. Or maybe not. Like, maybe you just keep finding shit that's really amazing. I mean, it's so easy to feel like that in life, but kind of like you're saying, like, you just kind of got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, it's kind of, it kind of, not in a real, like, physical way, but maybe in, like, a mental, emotional way. If you feel like the best parts of your life were in the past and there's nothing for you in the present or future, it kind of feels like dying.
Yeah.
And the way to get out of that is to find things in the future to look forward to, find things in the present to look forward to. Because that's, on the contrary, that's what being alive is being open-minded, absorbing new experiences, growing, evolving.
Yeah, and everybody has their different set of like setbacks and handicaps and this and that, because everybody has varying levels of, suffering and disability and, things holding them back. But that being said, it's like, well, that is, you are the vessel that you're living your life out of. So it's like, with all that in mind, like what can you do and what, just, trying to make the most of things even when it's really difficult.
Right.
Yeah. Much easier said than done.
Yeah. Do you ever do any running of any kind?
Oh, dude, I'm like pretty bad with cardio. The most cardio I get is hiking a mountain and going up that super steep incline, and that really gets my chest going. But I start my day every day with like some stretching, some yoga, and doing like body weight exercises mostly. I used to go to the gym and do weights like for an hour a day before the pandemic, but I haven't really done that in a while. But yeah, running. I actually prefer running on a treadmill. When I'm for some reason when I'm like out in the open, I feel like it's forever and I want it to stop. But when I'm on a thing, and like there's a number in front of me telling me what I've done, I much prefer that.
Yeah, I've done both. I've been working out consistently since like the pandemic started, but recently been getting back into running, which is something I did freshman year of college a lot. And I feel like, at least for me, running teaches you like one of the most important skills in life, which is that you can bear a certain amount of pain or discomfort and keep moving forward anyway for just a set amount of time. So like I'll do increments of like 5 or 10 minutes. Like when I start, I'm committed to at least 5 minutes or at least 10 minutes. I'll ideally go to 30. But when you're at minute 7 and it's like fucking hell, but you're committed to getting to 10 or 15 and you do it, you don't forget that it was really hard when you were at 7. And so you realize like, yeah, this is a lot of discomfort, but I make it through. It's not the end of the world and I can keep moving through anyway. I find that translates to the rest of my life so well, where I have a lot of projects going on. I'm really stressed. I find that I can bear that stress and that discomfort and just keep moving forward through it anyway. Just because that's kind of like the essence of what running is. So it makes me so much better equipped for everything else.
I think that applies to so many things in life. Like I just put out a video essay about the show My Hero Academia,
which I would watch, but I haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of spoiler in there, so I don't blame you. It's really, really good. But the main point of the video is kind of the idea of like training and pushing through things, like all the stuff we're talking about right now. And one of the things I said in there is how like a lot of tasks based around like pushing through whatever it is, like incremental change, it's a lot of time like mentally more difficult than like the actual thing itself,
That's what running is mental.
Yeah, because like even with like lifting weights and stuff, it's like all you're really doing is picking up a heavy object over and over again, and it hurts for a set amount of time. That's not that hard. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But what is hard is mentally deciding I'm going to go do that and then committing to it, and like Jay and I, we were laughing recently because he, I think, reposted something and it was like me thinking about all of the things that would make my life way better if I just took 15 minutes to do it. And that has been in the back of I've been using that as like a motivator lately for a lot of things, because I've been in a good stint lately where I've been doing like my dishes like the second I'm done with my food instead of letting it sit. And like there's just a number of different things where I'm like, maybe cutting a corner, doing something a little bit lazily like we all do. But then, when I can kind of remember, like, if I just fucking do this for like 2 minutes, I won't have to worry about it later. And it's like, I think life is just so much of like committing to doing things that you don't want to do in the moment.
It's really a lot mental. Like, that's the thing with like, again, if I'm at 7 minutes trying to get to 10 and it's a lot of pain, but mentally I'm locked in on 10, that skill translates to almost everything else you want to do. Like, all right, I need to finish this video today. Fucking don't want to, but mentally I'm locked in on finishing it. Like, you just build the skill of pushing through anyway, and then you're just empowered to do so many more other things.
Yeah. So
I've been getting back into running more. I want to go for longer distances and stuff, and it makes me kind of appreciate the pain and discomfort more. Because again, really, once you get through that, I feel like you can get through so much more stuff. It's helped my productivity, and just I feel like people like exercising and working out is so one aspect of it that's so underappreciated is not that it makes you look better, but that it makes you feel better. Like, I'll work out like solely because like of the energy boost and the clarity I get from it. Like, that's my main motivation for working out.
Yeah, when I exercise in the morning, like when I wake up and I have that like I'm in bed feeling when you first wake up and you're just like loading into your body and it feels so crazy and you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Usually the first or second thought I have is like looking over in the corner where I exercise most mornings. And I'm just thinking, I'm not doing that today because like it's the last thing in the world all I want to do is just like roll back over and go to sleep, you know, but I'm just like, well, I did it yesterday, so I can probably go over there and do that probably for at least 15 minutes, you know. And when I do, like, yeah, for sure, like the way I feel through the rest of the day is like so much better.
Oh yeah, it's true. Like you
so much
clean
better.
all the junk out of your body. Like you can like almost feel your veins like being cleaner and shit. Like it makes you think clear. I really
yeah, for me it's really a mental thing more than anything. It's like a mental health regimen. Yeah.
Yes, things like getting enough sleep, eating clean, working out, meditating. Those are the things that improve your body and mind. And the way I look at it is there's not a single thing you'll ever do in life that doesn't involve your body and mind. So if you improve the condition of your body and mind, you'll perform at everything better and you'll be happier at everything.
Yeah, I think everything's connected, and I think positive choices and positive behavior makes other positive choices even easier, and I think that's true of the negative. I kind of came to this philosophy, a personal philosophy a few years ago, that everything in the world is kind of just this sliding like yin yang scale of like two opposites. So it's like, for instance, if you get really used to exercising, the idea of being lazy is kind of anxiety inducing, but if you're like lazy all the time, the idea of exercising is and it's like same thing. If like all you eat is vegetables all the time, like a slushie from Circle K probably is going to taste like nuclear fuel. It might be, you might like it, but you're also going to be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But if that's all you have all the time, then like, you know, broccoli is going to be like cardboard to you.
For sure.
So I think life is kind of just, everybody has this different calculation of like what their tolerance is and what they're used to on this sliding scale. And a lot of time it is kind of like health and not health, or quality or you know, cheap and easy, you know, like hard fought and earned and good for you versus, you know, quick and easy. And it's kind of, and like I think that applies to so many things. It's like having like a meaningful partner, or just kind of choosing to go get together with like the first person who wants to get together with you, or like deciding to like do all those healthy things you listed, to have a general higher state of euphoria and happiness through your days, or just, you know, doing drugs really quickly to just get like an immediate feeling. And, you know, everything in moderation too, because like drugs and junk food and all these things, like there's merit to those things, you know, life is to be enjoyed, but it's about like doing it in a healthy way to where you're not letting those, you know, negative, so to speak, choices like control your life, rather than you getting to like enjoy them in like a controlled way.
Exactly. To go along with what you're saying, I feel like most of the time, maybe not with everything, but with that like dichotomy, or not dichotomy, the contrary of, we'll just say positive thing, negative thing. It's like most things that are ultimately negative, it's like initially it's pleasurable or comfortable or whatever, but ultimately in long term it's a negative thing. And on the so like doing drugs, like doing meth, like at first like probably feels amazing, but ultimately huge consequences. Working out initially is discomfort, but ultimately it's a reward. So it's like this initially bad for the long-term good, or initially good for the long-term bad. So the way it
applies to art, it applies to like
the way I've come to look at life based off of that is, I think life is making mostly good decisions with some tasteful bad decision making. You know what I mean? Every now and then.
That's a great way to put it.
Because you shouldn't be totally straight edge everything ever. I do everything I'm supposed to do every single day ever. Because then you're not living. I feel
I'm
like
not knocking you, but you have like a coffee from McDonald's.
Exactly,
right there. So,
you know what I mean? Like,
it's not like you're the most.
exactly. I'll go to Whataburger pretty often. You know. It is.
Yeah, but like you earn it through running all the time.
Exactly. Like I feel it's kind of like an 80-20 for me. Like mostly doing doing the orderly, disciplined things that take care of yourself and have your life in order, but definitely have some of those things that are just fun in the moment.
Well, I think humans just have an incredible ability to get used to things and form habits, and that's like why we have the neurotransmitters and like the stronger brains that like make humans humans. And it's like when I'm cooking every day, every meal for like a while, it becomes not hard for me anymore, and it's just what I do. Mm-hmm. But if I ever go down like a super like drive-through bender for like a few weeks ago, I was doing that like so much. The idea of like coming home and making anything was like so dreadful in my head. I was coming up with every reason as to why I didn't have the time for it, even though driving to a place and waiting in line and coming back and like is pretty much the equal amount of time.
Right.
So I think that like from positive and negative habits, it really just comes down to like people have an incredible ability to form habits and get used to things, both good and bad. It's the good things have a more difficult barrier to entry, and the bad things the doors open.
For sure. Yeah, it's exactly like you said. After you've done it for a while, it just becomes a thing that you do. Basically around when quarantine started, I wanted to do working out every day. First like month of that, it was like I had to be like my biggest priority of the day to establish that. And now it's been over a year straight, and I don't really even think about it. It's just a thing that I do. And I really believe that consistency is the most important thing. Yeah. It is not like every day I'm having a great workout where I have like meaningful progress, but I think the consistency and the discipline of showing up every day is so important. Even if I have a day where I'm just going through the motions and it's pretty trash workout. Yeah. The fact that I still put 30 minutes aside to show up and do it, to me, like honors the commitment and proved like, even though I didn't have the energy to have a good workout, I still proved that I had the 30 minutes that day to set aside and do it. So even if I'm like hella depressed that day and I just have to like walk around the neighborhood for 30 minutes, at least I put aside those 30 minutes and showed up that day.
Well, listen, I think we could keep talking forever.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah. I think I'm gonna cut it.
Sure.
If you have time, we should play a few games of Smash.
Yeah, I'll play a couple games
fun.
of Smash.
But thank you so much for coming on. It's so good to talk to you, and I'm glad that we went on this little stint here at the end about just like taking care of yourself and motivation and health, because I think that all this stuff is very important, and when people hear other people talking about it, it can give them, even if it's like a 1% difference, like some level of just positive mental energy.
Yeah, so, I'm really into
thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm really into all that stuff, and be happy to come back anytime.
All right, we're done. It is over now. We gotta stop.